Chapter 769. Each and every one of them possessed outstanding talent to begin with, and were the cream of the crop amongst the younger generation. Although they were not disciples of the 5 sects and 3 factions, they were still major factions from the Central Plains. How could they be so disdained by an unknown peer of the same age? As he looked at them, the expression on Su Chen's incomparably handsome face turned completely serious. "Then I'll have to ask in a different way." As his indifferent words rang out, Su Chen's gaze landed on a young man in yellow clothes. Raising his gaze, he walked towards him. "Kid, you've gone too far." The young man in yellow clothes was no ordinary individual either. The Yuan power within his body immediately surged as he threw a punch at Su Chen. His peak 3rd level origin spirit stage cultivation gushed out without reservation, giving off a ferocious aura. Bang! Everything happened too quickly, so quickly that the group had yet to recover their wit. A low muffled sound had already spread from the young man's fist, as energy surged and exploded. Soon after, several stunned gazes saw that the fist of the yellow-clothed youth was unable to advance even an inch further, as if it was frozen in place. The palm in front of him was wrapped in a white yuan power glow, directly covering and wrapping around his fist, causing him to be unable to move even an inch. The young man's expression changed drastically as shock filled his eyes. Crack! A cracking sound rang out from the former's fist as his fist and arm began to involuntarily rotate, following which, a 360-degree rotation was visible to the naked eye, before snapping in a manner that caused one's heart to palpitate. This was not a bone fracture, but a bone cracking and shattering as it spun. "Ah!" A miserable howl rang out from the young man's mouth like a pig being slaughtered. Blood spurted from the corner of his mouth, as his face turned deathly pale and his eyes filled with terror. The few people around him had originally wanted to attack together, but upon seeing this scene, they were instantly indescribably terrified, as their bodies turned limp for no reason. How could they not see that the strength of this handsome young man was not something they could contend against? Su Yi's figure walked over and stood beside Su Chen, his heart slightly moved. Although Su Chen appeared to be friendly and amiable, when he made a move, it was clear that he was no pushover. "I'll ask again. Who are you looking for?" Su Chen looked at the yellow-clothed youth and asked. His voice was still very pleasant to the ears. "We're not looking for you. We don't even know you. We're looking for Yi Su." The yellow-clothed youth wailed in agony. They did not know the white-clothed youth at all. They were only paying attention to the Bawang sect's Yi Su. They did not know who the white-clothed youth was. "You should have said so earlier." Su Chen faintly smiled and let go of the yellow-robed young man. He looked back at Su Yi and said with a hint of pride, "I told you I was looking for you. I don't have any enemies." Su Yi looked at Su Chen helplessly and raised his eyebrows. The few young men were flustered. They supported the yellow-clothed young man and were about to leave. "Tell me, why are you looking for me?" With Yuan Qi under his feet, Su Yi stood in front of them and asked them. They were flustered. They had long heard of the Bawang sect's Yi Su's reputation. Even Ouyang Jinwei of the Sacred Mountain was no match for him. How could they be his match? "We just heard of your name and wanted to get to know you." A tall young man with a strange tattoo on his wrist gritted his teeth and said. The Bawang sect's Yi Su was no match for him, but there were some people they could not afford to offend. "It seems that it's useless to talk nicely," Su Yi said softly. A red light quietly surged in his eyes. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly rushed forward and slapped at the tall young man. It was too fast. The young man saw Su Yi's palm coming and wanted to block it, but he found that he could not. The palm print enlarged in his eyes and landed on his lower abdomen like lightning. Bang! A low muffled sound came from the young man's lower abdomen. Pft! The young man spat out blood as his body flew backward and landed heavily in the distance, causing the ground to crack. "Ah!" Then he screamed and wailed, holding his lower abdomen and rolling on the ground. Everyone could see that the young man's Dantian Sea of Qi had been destroyed. With his Dantian Sea of Qi shattered, he was equivalent to a cripple. Some people trembled and gasped. Their eyes were filled with horror. The young man did not even have the strength to block and was turned into a cripple in one move. It was worse than being killed. Sui did not look at the young man. His deep eyes flashed with a cold light and a fierce aura. He asked the remaining people, "Why are you looking for me?" "Sir, it has nothing to do with us. It's the sacred mountain. They asked us to look for you." Some of the young men were afraid. They could not afford to offend the sacred mountain, but with Isu of the Bawang sect attacking so fiercely, they did not dare to offend him. The sacred mountain. Su Yi's eyes darkened at the mention of the sacred mountain. He looked at them and asked, "Tell me everything you know." "The sacred mountain's disciples found us and asked us to help find your whereabouts. If we report your location immediately, we will be rewarded. But we don't know what to do. It really has nothing to do with us. The sacred mountain just asked us to keep an eye on you." The young men did not dare to hide anything and told him everything. Their sects and clans all relied on the sacred mountain to exist and survive. How could they dare to disobey? The sacred mountain's disciples asked them to keep an eye on this Bawang sect's Isu, and there was a reward. They naturally paid attention when they saw him. After learning everything, Su Yi's face darkened. Red light flashed in his deep eyes. It really was the sacred mountain. Phew! Secretly exhaling, Su Yi looked at these young men with a sharp gaze and asked, "The sacred mountain asked you to find me, so you did. Is it because I'm easy to bully?" "Isu, we've already told you. Don't go too far. Our sects have a close relationship with the sacred mountain. If you attack us, the sacred mountain will never let you go." A young man gritted his teeth and mustered his courage to speak to Su Yi. "It seems that I'm easy to bully. Since your sects have a relationship with the sacred mountain, I'll fulfill your wish." At the same time, Su Yi's eyes surged with coldness. Then, screams and wails resounded in the night, echoing throughout the mountain range. The young men vomited blood one by one, holding their abdomens and rolling on the ground. They were all crippled. Su Yi did not hold back. Since they had a relationship with the sacred mountain and were looking for him, there was no need to be polite. "The sacred mountain doesn't seem easy to deal with. It seems your enemy is not ordinary." Chapter 770. It seems that we can part ways. The sacred mountain is not ordinary. "You'd better not cause any trouble," Sui said to Su Chen. "The sacred mountain seems to be very strong, but I didn't provoke them. They won't find trouble with me, so we can still go together," Su Chen said with a smile. He had no intention of leaving. Sui didn't say much. His eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at the few people who were still screaming on the ground. A cold light flashed in his eyes. "What are you going to do?" Su Chen looked at Sui and asked with interest. "They want to find me, so I'll do as they wish." Su Yi's lips curled into a cold smile. Before entering the sacred martial secret world, Merciless West had warned him that the sacred mountain would make a move. At that time, he had already decided that if the sacred mountain really wanted to deal with him, he wouldn't mind making them pay a price. He had already used the disguise technique, but the sacred mountain still had their eyes on him. This was the sacred martial secret world. It was said that even strong masters couldn't monitor his entry, so Su Yi didn't need to worry too much. "Do you need my help? If you do, we can discuss it." As for the nebula Ganoderma, Su Chen smiled embarrassedly, his gaze shifting. "No discussion, no sale." Su Yi refused very straightforwardly. The sacred martial secret world really didn't have people from the sacred mountain. Night filled the sky. Stars broke through the curtain of night. In the ancient forest, the night's humidity permeated the air. From the few screaming youths, Sui asked how to find a way to contact the disciples of the sacred mountain. These people had already told Su-yi everything they knew. They were full of fear and told Su-yi that as soon as they entered the sacred martial secret world, they were ordered by the disciples of the sacred mountain to find Yi-Su of the Bawang sect. If they had any news, they were to inform the disciples of the sacred mountain. Because in the sacred martial secret world, they couldn't be together, but the disciples of the sacred mountain had a way to contact each other. Is that so? Su-yi was somewhat dissatisfied. It seems like he had to rely on fate to meet a disciple of the holy mountain. However, as long as he found a disciple of the holy mountain, he would be able to find the others. What about these people? Su-chen asked Su-yi. In the sacred martial secret world, these fellows had been crippled. If they stayed here, it would be disastrous. Looking at these people, Su-yi's eyes flashed with a cold light. Looking into Su-yi's eyes, the young men's eyes twitched in fear. Their faces were ashen and despair filled their eyes. Su-yi's gaze sent a chill down their spines and sent chills down their spines. Only now did they realize that the sacred mountain was not to be trifled with. They originally thought that they would be able to obtain a reward from the sacred mountain, but who knew that they would meet a fiend? If even the disciples of the sacred mountain were looking for him, how could he be easy to deal with? They realized it too late. You chose to hand me over to the sacred mountain, so you must pay the price. Su-yi made up his mind. Killing intent flashed across his eyes. Leaving these people behind was not a wise choice. He already had enough enemies, so he didn't want to provoke more trouble. A moment later, screams resounded through the night sky. Su-yi made his move. The young men were killed, and their space bags were taken by Su-yi. Su-chen's expression did not change. He watched Su-yi's actions with a smile on his face, but there was a slight fluctuation in his eyes. At night, the moonlight poured down on the vast ancient mountain forest, casting a mottled silver light between the treetops of the mountain range. Bang! Bang! Half an hour later, rocks exploded and towering trees cracked. 2 young men were dripping with blood, their vitality fading. Big Dipper sect. Su-yi remembered this mountain sect. These 2 people were from the Big Dipper sect, and they were also looking for him. They seemed to have a good relationship with the sacred mountain. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the distance there was the sound of wind breaking. Someone had heard the commotion and was rushing over. They were getting closer and closer to the center of the sacred martial secret world. Although those who could reach here the fastest were the strongest of the younger generation, there were not many of them. However, at this moment, the area near the center of the sacred martial secret world was getting smaller and smaller. The chances of encountering them were getting higher and higher. Su-yi did not know who was coming, but he did not want to expose himself. After killing these 2 disciples of the Big Dipper sect, Su-yi did not want to cause any unnecessary trouble. Although Su-yi had remembered the Big Dipper sect, now was not the time to expose himself. The disciples of the Big Dipper sect are very strong. Someone did it, and the person is very terrifying. Soon, several people appeared here. They all had extraordinary temperaments, and the fluctuations of their auras were vigorous. They examined the 2 corpses on the ground. It was obvious that these corpses were not done by the sacred martial secret world, but rather by someone else. They recognized the 2 corpses. Even the best of the younger generation of the Big Dipper sect had been killed in one move. One could imagine how terrifying the person who could kill these 2 people was. Be careful. These people then left, all of them being very careful. When these people left, 2 figures quietly landed on a towering tree not far away. They were Su-yi and Su-chen. Not long after, in this ancient forest, another person was killed. 3 young men lay together in a pool of blood. The mystic Yuan sect. Su-yi put away a few space bags and remembered this sect. It was another sect that obeyed the orders of the sacred mountain. It was not difficult to find these people. As long as Su-yi appeared, their eyes would be very special, and they would be different. #0G. The bright moon set in the west, and a touch of gray gradually appeared in the eastern sky. In this ancient mountain forest, screams resounded from time to time. In 4 hours, Sui attacked several times. He also remembered the mystic Yuan sect, Big Dipper sect, and Big Dipper sect. Sui did not show mercy. If someone wanted to deal with him, then there was no need to be polite. If he was not strong enough and fell into the hands of these people, his fate would be unimaginable. Aren't you afraid that I'll leak the news and tell the mystic Yuan sect, Big Dipper sect, and Big Dipper sect that it was you who did it? Su Chen said faintly. He had been following Sui. When he saw how fierce Sui was, he directly killed him because he did not want to be exposed. One had to know that these disciples were the pinnacle of the younger generation of those mountain sections. They were the blood, sweat, and tears of those mountain sections. If they knew that these disciples were killed by Sui, those experts in the mountain sects would definitely go crazy. At that time, they would definitely not let this guy go. How can I keep it a secret? Sui smiled and took out a lot of space bags. He asked Su Chen, "How about I give you half?" Hearing this, Su Chen's face lit up. He immediately said, "No need, no need. As long as you sell the Nebula Ganoderma to me." "I'm not selling." Sui turned around and refused without hesitation. "You're playing with me. Do you believe that I won't tell on you?" Chapter 771. Go on, you have a share anyway. Sui strode out. "I didn't do anything." Su Chen helplessly chased after him. "That depends on whether others believe it or not," Sui said with a deep meaning. "Stop threatening me. If you don't sell the Nebula Ganoderma to me, I will tell on you." Su Chen was stunned, but he wasn't afraid. He didn't care anyway. "Go." Sui waved his hand dismissively. "You sigh," Su Chen sighed, feeling extremely sullen. It was as if he couldn't do anything to this fella. The mountains were shrouded in the darkness before dawn. A whoa! He didn't know where it came from, but the roar of a beast could be heard from time to time. DQFP 0x. Looking from afar, the huge canyon was winding, steep, and deep. Layers of lithosphere were piled up together. As the canyon twisted and turned, it looked like a deep grayish-white tie in the dark night, winding and dancing in the middle of this ancient deep forest. The canyon was surrounded by tall mountains that soared into the sky. They were like sharp swords that separated the heavens and the earth. At the entrance of the canyon, there were no less than 30 to 40 figures. Their faces were filled with anticipation, excitement, and fear. Among them, there were several young men and women with bloodstains on their bodies. They were in a sorry state and their faces were pale. They were sitting cross-legged on a rock with their eyes closed as they adjusted their breathing. Deep red, these young men and women all had a faint glow on their bodies, illuminating the surroundings with a hazy light. Waves of extraordinary auras fluctuated. They were all outstanding figures of the younger generation. If Sui were here, he would definitely recognize a few familiar faces. Among them were Gong Qi and Jian Wuk from the Xinjian Gate, as well as Lu Xiaohu from the Tianxian sect. This group of young people seemed to be extraordinary, but now that they were gathered together, they seemed to be fearful and discussing something with their heads lowered. This group of disciples was led by Jian Wuk and a young woman from the Xinjian Gate. This man and woman stood out from the crowd. Even Lu Xiaohu, who was a sole controller, paled in comparison to them. The young girl's figure was graceful, and she was young. She had a charming face, but her skin was a healthy wheat color. She lacked the fair and delicate feeling of a woman, but she looked valiant. She had a small and straight nose, and her eyes were big and bright under her long and curved eyelashes. The strangest thing was that this woman's eyes had a faint golden color, which added to her charm. "Someone else is here." A group of people was discussing something. Suddenly, someone's gaze shifted to the outside of the canyon. More people were coming. Many gazes immediately looked over. Two figures appeared outside the canyon. It's actually Yi Su from the Bawang sect. Suddenly, some people were surprised. Among the two people, one of the seemingly ordinary young men was actually the famous Bawang sect's Yi Su. The Bawang sect's Yi Su immediately attracted everyone's attention. Even Jian Wuk and the valiant and charming woman raised their eyes and were secretly moved. The two people that had arrived were Su Yi and Su Chen. What a handsome person! A few women in the crowd saw Su Chen, and their eyes immediately widened. They could not help but take a few more glances at him. Su Yi sensed many auras ahead. He did not hide his tracks. He really wanted to see if there were people looking for him, or if he met someone from the sacred mountain. There are so many people. I wonder if anyone is looking for you, Su Chen said to Su Yi as he looked at the group of people in front of him. Su Yi stepped forward. When he swept his gaze across the crowd, his eyes flickered. Naturally, Su Yi recognized Gong Qi, Lu Xiaohu, and the others. There was also that extraordinary young man from the Xinjian Gate. He should be Jian Wuk. There was also a blacksmith from the Heavenly Profound sect. Su Yi had seen him in the Heavenly Palace when his soul was tested. He had a king-grade soul, and his name seemed to be Zhao Chuanan. However, Su Yi immediately felt somewhat regretful. Among the dozens of people, there was not a single person from the sacred mountain. There are so many people. Is there something going on? Su Chen looked around curiously. With so many people gathered together, there was definitely something going on. Su Yi had already looked around. Jian Wuk, Lu Xiaohu, and the others were all there. From what he saw during the day, many of the people here were from the 5 sects and 3 factions. There were also a few injured people who were taking advantage of the time to recover. This proved that there was definitely something going on. Su Yi ignored the gazes directed at him. He was also somewhat curious. If there was nothing important, these people would not gather together. There seems to be something inside, right? Su Yi stared at the canyon. These people looked at the entrance of the canyon, and many of them looked into the canyon, either intentionally or unintentionally. This proved that there was definitely something inside. When Su Yi released his soul strength, he also felt an unusual aura in the canyon, causing the surrounding temperature to rise. You are Yi Su from the Bawang sect, right? Can you come with us? Just as Su Yi was looking around, a melodious voice spoke to Su Yi. Su Yi looked over towards the source of the voice and saw a valiant and charming young woman. She wore tight clothes that outlined her slender and straight legs, and the curves of her entire body were extremely moving. Moreover, she revealed a bright and moving aura of youth. Su Yi could roughly guess the identity of this woman. He had seen her at the entrance of the sacred martial secret world. She was at the front of the Clear Sky sect's lineup. Looking at her temperament and the invisible aura on her body, Su Yi guessed that this woman was the most famous Clear Sky sect's Qin Yanhuan. Su Yi could not help but take a second look at her slender, straight legs and alluring curves. This woman's style and temperament were even better than Gong Qi's. Most importantly, the invisible aura on her body gave her a unique temperament. Following Qin Yanhuan's question, everyone's eyes suddenly fell on Su Yi. If this Bawang sect's Yi Su also joined, their chances of winning would be much higher. Are we going inside? Su Yi looked into the canyon and asked Qin Yanhuan. We received news that there is a raging flame dragon crystal vine inside, and the dragon crystal fruit is about to mature. Qin Yanhuan looked at Su Yi and said, not concealing anything. She had also heard of the Bawang sect's Yi Su. Being able to easily defeat Ouyang Jinwei had already proved his strength and was qualified to enter, increasing their chances of winning. Raging flame dragon crystal vine, dragon crystal fruit. Hearing this, Su Chen's expression changed greatly. Su Yi narrowed his eyes twitching. Dragon crystal fruit was not an ordinary fruit. It was said that this raging flame dragon crystal vine could only grow in places where a true dragon clan bloodline had once resided and left behind their blood essence. It was said that a mature dragon crystal fruit was a precious treasure that could strengthen a barbaric monster beast's bloodline. If a cultivator consumed it, it could temper their physical body, enhance their talent, and cleanse their bones. Chapter 772. But there's a group of three-headed dragon horned pythons in there. They're very strong. There are several of them in the demon spirit realm. The strongest of them is probably at the 3rd level of the demon spirit realm. Jian Wuk said. Several three-headed dragon horned pythons in the demon spirit realm. The strongest one might be at the 3rd level of the demon spirit realm. They couldn't help but be wary of such a lineup. Although there were quite a few of them, only he and Chen Yanhuan had reached the Yuanzhen realm. It was rumored that Yi Su was able to defeat Ouyang Jinwei, who was at the 1st level of the Yuanzhen realm. This proved that he had the strength to participate. Otherwise, with just him and Chen Yanhuan, the chances of them obtaining the dragon crystal fruits wouldn't be high. Su-Yi narrowed his eyes. He finally understood why these people didn't enter. It's because there's a group of three-headed dragon horned pythons in there. Su-Yi knew about these barbaric beasts. They possess the bloodline of the demon clan and are incomparably powerful. It's said that these three-headed dragon horned pythons possess the bloodline of the dragon clan. However, it's very rare. The three-headed dragon horned pythons must be guarding the dragon crystal fruits to strengthen their bloodline. To these barbaric beasts, it's an irresistible temptation. If I go with you guys, how are we going to split the dragon crystal fruits? Su-Yi asked Jian Wuk. He couldn't help feeling closer to the people from the Xinjian Gate. Normally, there will be 3 to 7 dragon crystal fruit. At that time, we'll split them according to the amount of effort we put in. If there aren't many dragon crystal fruits, those who didn't get any will get other treasures to make up for it. Jian Wuk nodded his head towards Su-Yi. This was the plan that they've already discussed. Everyone will enter the canyon, but there won't be enough dragon crystal fruits. Therefore, they'll split the fruits according to the amount of effort they put in. Those who didn't get any dragon crystal fruits will have to take out some treasures and benefits to make up for it. Su-Yi lightly smiled as he looked at the canyon. He shook his head towards Jian Wuk and said, I'm not interested. You guys can go together. V0F*. Su-Yi wasn't stupid about Jian Wuk's suggestion. There were several three-headed dragon horned pythons at the Demon True Realm, and the strongest one was probably at the 3rd level of Yuanzhen Realm. Although none of the people present were weak, and they were all elites among the younger generation, Su-Yi estimated that there were only a handful of them who had the strength to fight against a three-headed dragon horned python at the Demon True Realm. Of the people present, the strongest were Jian Wuk and Clear Sky Sect's Chen Yanhuan, so it would be better for Yang Kai to fight alone. What's more, apart from a few disciples of Xinjian Gate, Su-Yi was not familiar with the others, so there was no trust to speak of. Hearing Su-Yi's words, the group of people's expressions changed. Originally, they were also looking forward to Su-Yi joining them. At that time, they would have a higher chance of winning. However, Yi Su from the Bawang sect did not seem to be interested in joining forces with them. Jian Wuk and Chen Yanhuan's eyes also flashed with some fluctuations. Not interested? Since you don't put anyone in your eyes, then just leave. We won't force you, just don't think of fishing in troubled waters. After all, no one is a fool. Lu Xiaohu's faint voice carried a faint coldness as he spoke. He was dressed in luxurious robes, and on his handsome face, there was a faint coldness in his eyes as he stared at Su-Yi. Lu Xiaohu was unhappy with Su-Yi in his heart. Every time he saw him, he hated him. However, there seemed to be some fear in his heart. Lu Xiaohu had always been unhappy with Su-Yi. From the inspection of Yutian Palace to the auction, his jealousy had turned to hatred. When he saw Su-Yi just now, He thought that Su-yi would join forces with them, so he didn't say anything. It would be even better if the three-headed dragon-horned python could kill him. However, who knew that Su-yi didn't intend to go? Seeing Su-yi's expression, it seemed that he wanted to go alone. Lu Xiaohu couldn't hold back anymore. Lu Xiaohu's words not only roped in everyone, but also wanted Su-yi to leave. He couldn't let Su-yi fish in troubled waters. Hearing Lu Xiaohu's words, the gazes of the people present started to turn complicated. Some of them had already been instigated. Isu refused to join them and not work together with them. This was undoubtedly looking down on everyone present. This made these proud and arrogant youths feel displeased. If Su-yi followed them into the canyon and refused to join forces, he would indeed be suspected of fishing in troubled waters. At that time, if Isu from the Bawang sect obtained the dragon crystal fruit, he wouldn't split it equally with everyone. This would be a great advantage. Su-yi looked back and stared at Lu Xiaohu. Su-yi's deep eyes flickered with a faint red light in the darkness before dawn. It made people feel even colder. Su-yi had a deep impression of Lu Xiaohu. Back in Yutian Palace, if it weren't for Jian Wanyan and the others, he would have already attacked him. Su-yi also didn't forget Lu Xiaohu's expression and actions at the auction. What did you say? Say it again? Su-yi stared at Lu Xiaohu and said indifferently. Feeling Su-yi's gaze, Lu Xiaohu didn't know why, but he felt a chill in his heart and his heart palpitated. But at this moment there were so many people around. For the sake of face, Lu Xiaohu couldn't step down. He also felt that with so many people here, and everyone had joined forces, this Isu was very strong, but he wouldn't dare to do anything to him. Secretly gritting his teeth, Lu Xiaohu inwardly summoned his courage and looked straight at Su-yi, saying, I said, don't think all of us are fools and look down on us. If you don't want to join forces with us, then don't think of fishing in troubled waters. We won't force you. You're only half right. Su-yi's gaze was fixed on Lu Xiaohu. He slowly walked towards Lu Xiaohu and said, I'm not looking down on everyone, I'm just looking down on you. What do you want to do? Seeing Su-yi directly walking towards him, Lu Xiaohu instinctively felt fear. He couldn't help but step back a little, and his expression changed greatly. A person's name was like a tree's shadow. Lu Xiaohu knew that his strength shouldn't be comparable to Ouyang Jinwei of the Sacred Mountain. This Isu could defeat Ouyang Jinwei in one move. If they were to fight, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. What do you think? Do you think there are still people from the Heavenly Profound sect here to protect you? Su-yi stared at Lu Xiaohu. Originally, he didn't take this Lu Xiaohu seriously, but this person provoked him time and time again. This was the sacred martial secret world. How could he be bullied by this clown? Isu, don't go too far. Do you want to fight with all of us? Lu Xiaohu was shocked. Looking at the former's aura, it was obvious that he wanted to deal with him. His heart trembled slightly, and he wanted to pull everyone present to boost his courage. If Chen Yanhuan and Jian Wuk could fight, then he wouldn't be afraid of this guy today. Don't drag everyone into it. I only want to deal with you alone, it has nothing to do with the others. Back then in the Heavenly Palace, I told you that I don't take you seriously at all. Chapter 773. Listening to Su-yi's words, his disdain and contempt could not be clearer. Su-yi was only targeting Lu Xiaohu. Many people around looked at each other and subconsciously stepped back, waiting to watch the show. When the people present heard this, they could also tell that Lu Xiaohu and the Bawang sects Isu seemed to have a conflict. It was no wonder that Lu Xiaohu wanted to drag everyone along. None of the people who could reach this place in such a short time were fools. The Bawang sect's Isu was famous outside. They would not stand on Lu Xiaohu's side at all. Feeling that the people around were not being pulled to his side, but instead secretly stepped back to watch the show, Lu Xiaohu's eyes flashed with a faint hatred. He gritted his teeth. These people were indeed unreliable. Su Yi's words also caused Lu Xiaohu's face to turn green and red. His eyes were filled with a chilling aura. Lu Xiaohu was afraid, but he was still one of the top representatives of the Tianxian sect's younger generation. In the Tianxian sect, he had always been high and mighty. At this moment, he was being humiliated and despised in public. How could he bear it? Kid, don't go too far. If we really fight, you will regret it. Lu Xiaohu's face twitched. He gritted his teeth, and his eyes were filled with threat. This was the sacred martial secret world. The Tianxian sect had stronger disciples here. Is that so? What if I insist on fighting today? Su Yi said lightly. Then let's do it. When he said this, Lu Xiaohu's face suddenly turned cold. His figure immediately rushed towards Su Yi. He had already stepped into the Yuan Zhen realm. He did not hold back his aura, and his Yuan Qi swept through the space. Buzz! At this moment, Lu Xiaohu suddenly clenched a large saber in his hand. The saber's body was covered with Yuan Qi, and it was shining brightly. He unceremoniously slashed towards Su Yi. Lu Xiaohu knew that Yi Su would probably make a move on him today. He had secretly made preparations to gain the initiative by striking first. If he went all out, he still had a chance. At this moment, Lu Xiaohu's cold face had a hint of a sneer. This kid was very strong, but so what? He was still too inexperienced to play with him. The winner was the king and the loser was the bandit. This had always been a truth that had never changed. The large saber in Lu Xiaohu's hand was of a very high level. Its aura was intimidating and fierce. Under his unreserved strength, the saber light flashed, turning into a large wave of saber light that bloomed. And saber light. Su! Lu Xiaohu's sudden outburst surprised everyone around him. Many people's expressions changed. Many people never expected that with Lu Xiaohu's status, he would actually launch such a sneak attack, and they couldn't help but gasp for Su Yi. Everything happened very quickly. The saber light sealed Su Yi's vital points and arrived in an instant. Su Yi looked up. His deep eyes flashed with a red light and a cold glint. When it came to scheming against others, Su Yi had always been the one to scheme against others since he was young. He had long been prepared. Xiao, 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 Xiao. Streaks of saber light slashed down like lightning, instantly slicing Su Yi's body into pieces. Heavens! Many people could not help but exclaim in shock. The famous Bawang sect's Yi Su was killed by Lu Xiaohu just like that. Pro. Edition First P/Release N. 0. However, within the crowd, Jian Wuk and Chen Yanhuan's eyes rippled at this moment. Immediately, light surged out from their eyes. Only Su Chen did not react at all. He remained calm. Su Chen knew best that with Lu Xiaohu's strength, how could he be a match for that fellow? Fancy saber techniques are useless. Is that all you've got? But at that moment, a familiar voice sounded. Su Yi, who had just been chopped into pieces, strangely appeared beside Lu Xiaohu. Many people were shocked. Only now did they realize that Su Yi's body, which had just been chopped into pieces, did not have a trace of blood. It was just an afterimage. Lu Xiaohu was aghast. His hideous grin was instantly replaced by horror. At the same time, Su Yi made his move. His eyes flashed with coldness. Yuan Qi wrapped around him, and a fist blasted out. It shook the space and rushed in all directions. Not good. Lu Xiaohu's expression changed. Everything happened too quickly. It was too late to use his saber. He could only shake his left arm and raise his palm to meet the attack. Bang! There was a muffled explosion. Yuan Qi light was especially dazzling in the darkness before dawn. The powerful force blasted out in all directions, sending sand and stones flying. Kacha! Puff! A slight cracking sound was heard. Under everyone's gaze, Lu Xiaohu's body directly staggered back. His feet stepped on the ground, and wherever he passed, the ground cracked. A large mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth, and the saber in his right hand fell to the ground with a clang. Lu Xiaohu's left hand was bleeding. His face was pale, and cold sweat was dripping down his forehead. His throat was struggling to endure the pain. This sudden change shocked everyone in all directions. They were all stupefied. Everyone could see that Lu Xiaohu had been defeated in one move, and in such a miserable way. I said that I don't put you in my eyes. You can't even withstand a single blow. Su Yi waved his hand and looked at Lu Xiaohu. He really didn't put someone who had not even stepped into the Yuan Zhen stage in his eyes. On Lu Xiaohu's pale face, the corners of his eyes were filled with horror and resentment. He kept twitching, and a cold light surged. He instantly formed a hand seal, and a powerful soul fluctuation suddenly spread out from his body. An invisible soul storm formed around him, and the surrounding space began to distort. Boom! Soon, with Lu Xiaohu as the epicenter, a powerful soul fluctuation suddenly fluctuated, causing everyone to feel dizzy and their souls to tremble. What a powerful soul power! Someone exclaimed. Everyone knew that Lu Xiaohu was a soul controller, and such a soul power was worthy of being at the royal level. Soul controller, I'm one too! Almost at the same time, Su Yi moved. There was a cold smile in his eyes, and he didn't really stop. Yuan Qi swept out from the soles of his feet, and a red light flashed. His figure suddenly appeared in front of Lu Xiaohu like a ghost. He was not afraid of the soul storm that shocked everyone. His deep eyes were filled with coldness, and he was already prepared, so he directly sent out a palm strike. Everything was done in one go. Everyone could see that Su Yi seemed to be prepared, and had been waiting for Lu Xiaohu for a long time. It was too fast, and Lu Xiaohu didn't have time to react. He could only gather his Yuan Qi in front of him, and the soul storm around him was also greatly affected. Chapter 774. On the palm print, crimson Yuan Qi flickered as a powerful force poured out like a volcanic eruption, directly destroying Lu Xiaohu's Yuan Qi defense. Bang! The energy swept out in all directions, and a muffled explosion sounded like thunder. The terrifying soul power was dispersed, and the energy was torn apart, spreading out in all directions. Puff! Lu Xiaohu spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body flew back without turning back, heavily crashing into the distance. The ground where the former's body landed cracked, and with his body as the center, cracks spread out like a spider web. Lu Xiaohu was indeed worthy of being one of the top figures among the younger generation of the Heavenly Profound sect. He was one of the top figures among the younger generation of the Heavenly Profound sect. After suffering such a heavy injury, he was overwhelmed with shock. However, he subconsciously gritted his teeth and tried to get up and escape. However, Lu Xiaohu did not have the time to react. Just as he stood up, a hand with 5 fingers bent slightly like an eagle's claw wrapped in crimson light directly grabbed his neck. The claw print had a huge force pressing down like a mountain, making Lu Xiaohu unable to move. Under the fierce aura, Lu Xiaohu's throat choked, and the Yuan Qi in his body was blocked. His face turned red, and he had difficulty breathing. He was already being held in the hand like a chick. You can't even withstand a single blow. You're weaker than I thought. Su Yi looked at Lu Xiaohu, who was being held in his hand like a chick, with a stern gaze. Slap! A crisp sound resounded, and 5 fingerprints appeared on Lu Xiaohu's cheek, swollen and bruised. You've provoked me time and time again. Do you really think the Heavenly Xian sect can protect you forever? Slap, slap, Su Yi said in a deep voice. He grabbed Lu Xiaohu's neck like a chick with one hand, and slapped him several times with the other. Everyone was dumbfounded, and their faces turned pale with fright. Before anyone could react, Lu Xiaohu's face was already red and swollen. It was too horrible to look at, and his mouth was dripping with blood from the slap. The poor Lu Xiaohu was also stunned. He had never been humiliated like this, and no one dared to treat him like this. However, everything that happened today made Lu Xiaohu stunned and shocked to the point that he was unable to recover from his shock. His vitality was blocked, and breathing was difficult. His face was also bruised from suffocation, and his veins were exposed, making him look even more ferocious. "If you dare to provoke me in the future, you'll have to bear the consequences." After Su Yi found a few interspatial bags from Lu Xiaohu's body, a hidden force gushed out, and he tossed Lu Xiaohu away like a chick. Pfff, the pitiful Lu Xiao, whose face was ashen as he fell heavily to the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and a few teeth. With disheveled hair and bloodstains, Lu Xiaohu lay on the ground, motionless. It was unknown whether he was severely injured to the point where he could no longer move, or he was so shocked that he couldn't come back to his senses. The surrounding space was completely silent. The world outside the canyon seemed to have suddenly fallen into a deathly stillness. Huff huff! Some people looked at each other and sucked in a breath of cold air. Many people looked at Su Yi as if they had seen a ghost. Even Jian Wuk and Chen Yanhuan's eyes fluctuated greatly. Lu Xiaohu was, after all, the most outstanding member of the Heavenly Profound Sect's younger generation. He was the face of the Heavenly Profound Sect. However, the Bawang Sect's Yi Su didn't even put the Heavenly Profound Sect in his eyes. Too domineering. His strength is unfathomable, too strong. Someone muttered. This Bawang Sect's Yi Su was so domineering, and his strength was even stronger. Lu Xiaohu had 1 foot in the Yuan Zhen realm, and he was also a soul controller. However, he couldn't even withstand a single blow. There was another disciple of the Heavenly Profound Sect present, the blacksmith Zhao Chuanan. At this moment, his face was pale. Looking at the scene before him, Zhao Chuanan didn't dare to step forward. He was afraid that this ferocious fellow wouldn't let him off. Su Yi put away the few spatial bags with a calm expression. Although Su Yi knew that Lu Xiaohu would hold a grudge, he didn't dare to kill him in front of so many people. After all, Lu Xiaohu was an important disciple of the Heavenly Profound Sect. If he really killed him, the Heavenly Profound Sect would definitely go crazy. Su Yi already had enough enemies. Although one more Heavenly Profound Sect was nothing to him, it was still better to have one less enemy. Looking at the canyon, Su Yi narrowed his eyes. Since he knew about the dragon crystal fruit, he naturally couldn't let it go. The 3-headed dragon horn python in the Yaojin realm was a huge threat. To anyone in the sacred martial secret world, the slightest carelessness would put their lives in danger. However, Su Yi knew that he had an advantage. If there were several Yuan Zhen realm experts, and if there were even a level 3 Yuan Zhen realm expert, it would be difficult to deal with them. However, Su Yi possessed the primordial origin supreme technique. With his current cultivation, he was able to suppress the barbaric demon beasts of the demon true realm. Whoosh! Without much hesitation, Su Yi didn't plan to team up with Jian Wuk, Chen Yanhuan, and the others. He had his own advantages. Immediately, his figure flew into the canyon. Su Yi had his own plans. He had his own advantages. Of course, he couldn't miss out on the dragon crystal fruit. He had a great chance of obtaining it. Seeing Su Yi enter the canyon, everyone's expression changed. Some of the people present had seen Lu Xiaohu's fate, so no one dared to say anything. Wait for me. When Su Chen saw this, he immediately followed Su Yi into the gorge. Jian Wuk, Chen Yanhuan, and the others didn't hesitate. 2 figures flew out at almost the same time, following closely behind. Let's go! When the crowd saw Jian Wuk and Chen Yanhuan enter the canyon, they immediately followed behind, afraid that they would miss out on this opportunity. With Yi Su, Jian Wuk, Chen Yanhuan, and the others around, the crowd had less to worry about. When the time came, Jian Wuk and the others would deal with the Yaojin realm 3-headed dragon horn pythons. The few young men and women who were cultivating with their eyes closed could no longer sit still. For the dragon crystal fruit, they were already injured. They were also the first to know about the dragon crystal fruit. Naturally, they couldn't let others have the opportunity to obtain it. Zhao Chuan'an's face was pale. After hesitating for a while, he finally walked towards Lu Xiaohu. The darkness before dawn was exceptionally deep. The canyon was dark and deep. Layers of rocks meandered through the canyon. Some areas were covered in thick moss. Not only that, but there was also the sound of water dripping from the cracks in the rock. Sui was very careful. He knew that there were 3-headed dragon horn pythons inside, so he didn't dare to be careless. 3-headed dragon horn pythons were not easy to deal with. They had a very high bloodline. The entrance of the canyon was narrow at first. After a while, it gradually widened. There were huge rocks in the surroundings, stacked on top of each other. The temperature inside grew higher and higher. The air was filled with mist, and the atmosphere was scorching hot. So hot. Chapter 775. I didn't expect there to be such a place. Su Chen followed beside Sui, looking much more relaxed. Under the scorching heat, he looked around in confusion. The deeper they went into the canyon, the higher the temperature became. The rocks turned reddish-brown, giving off faint steam. Not even a blade of grass grew. Then, the light in front became more and more dazzling. The surrounding rocks turned reddish-brown. Steam rose from the rocks. Under the high temperature, it was enough to burn on the ground. Everyone had already covered their bodies with yuan qi to resist the high temperature. The ground was not something that ordinary people could step on. There's a treasure. Suddenly, Sui sensed a rich medicinal fragrance permeating the canyon. Then, he saw a small pond among the countless towering rocks. Strangely, the water in the pond was like lava from a volcano. It was boiling and bubbling unceasingly. The temperature of the water had also reached a frightening level. Inside the pool, a red spirit vine that was as thick as an adult's calf was crawling on the rock wall and winding around the surroundings. It was probably hundreds of feet long and gave off a strong and curly feeling. The spiritual vine was like a dormant dragon. It had branches and leaves, covering the surroundings. It was scarlet red, as if there were sparks coming out of it. The leaves were as big as a palm and were crystal clear. Raging Flame Crystal Dragon Vine. Sui squinted his eyes. It was the Raging Flame Crystal Dragon Vine. The Raging Flame Crystal Dragon Vine itself was a kind of treasure. It was expensive and rare. The dragon crystal fruit it bore was even more precious. Looking around, Sui saw 6 baby fist-sized fruits hanging from the fiery crystal dragon vines between the rock walls. They were translucent and sparkling like little fireballs. They emitted a rich medicinal fragrance that made people drool. Dragon crystal fruit, it's really the dragon crystal fruit. Someone could not help but exclaim. He recognized the dragon crystal fruit. It was a precious treasure. It was said that consuming the dragon crystal fruit could directly increase one's talent and strength. It was an irresistible temptation for anyone. Whoosh! Suddenly, a fishy smell filled the air. Quietly, a fierce aura spread out. Be careful! Someone spoke, his expression changing greatly. Only then did everyone shift their blazing gazes away from the dragon crystal fruit and look around. Huge 3-headed dragon horned pythons had already quietly crawled out from the numerous towering boulders and rock walls. Sui had long been staring at the surrounding 3-headed dragon horned pythons. They were huge, red in color, and covered in thick scales. These scales were very thick, covering the body of the 3-headed dragon horned python like small bulges. On the 3 ferocious snake heads, there were 6 pairs of ferocious eyes that emitted a terrifying light. On each of the snake heads there was also a pair of fleshy horns. Ao ao! The low and deep beast roar was like the roar of a flood dragon. Behind the raging flame crystal dragon Rattan, 4 even larger three-headed dragon horned pythons stretched their heads out. Their 12 pairs of gong-like snake eyes looked down at the people who had just arrived. They emitted a murderous, dark and red light, emitting a cold, murderous aura. Hiss! In all directions, huge three-headed dragon horned pythons moved in unison, raising their heads and hissing. A bloody and cold aura instantly surged, causing the temperature in the canyon to become even hotter. Not good! Why are there so many three-headed dragon horned pythons? The temptation of the dragon crystal fruit was irresistible, but seeing so many three-headed dragon horned pythons, there were at least 100 of them. Many of them had the aura of the demon spirit realm, and some of them were even at the 8th or 9th level of the demon spirit realm. Many of them instantly turned pale. This fierce, bloody, and cold aura affected both their yuan qi and soul. The few young men and women, who were originally injured, were even more shocked. Originally, they had only encountered a few three-headed dragon horn pythons outside, so they had escaped quickly. However, they did not expect that the number of three-headed dragon horn pythons would be so terrifying. 4 Demon True Realm. Sui frowned his brows. The other three-headed dragon horned pythons were still fine, but the 4 in front of him had already reached the Demon True Realm. The three-headed dragon horned python in the middle was covered in a scarlet light, and the horn on its head was even thicker. Sui estimated that it was at the 3rd level of the Demon True Realm. A 3rd level Demon True Realm three-headed dragon horned python. Normally speaking, even a 4th level Yuan True Realm cultivator wouldn't be able to deal with it. One must know that these three-headed dragon horned pythons weren't easy to deal with. 4 Demon True Realm three-headed dragon horned pythons. This is going to be difficult to deal with. Su Chen's gaze also fell on the 4 Demon True Realm three-headed dragon horned pythons. His brows slightly knitted together, but he didn't look too serious. The dragon crystal fruit is mine. Sui chuckled. 4 Demon True Realm three-headed dragon horned pythons might be difficult to deal with, but that was only for others. But it was different for him. Su Chen raised his eyebrows. This fella is really confident. Roar. Q2V on the Q2V. 700Q3. 7_59. Looking at Su Yi, Jian Wuk, Chen Yanhuan and the others, the three-headed dragon horn python with the most powerful and intimidating aura roared. Its 6 snake eyes emitted a frightening cold light as it raised its head and roared. The three-headed dragon horned python could be considered a true demon. Its intelligence wasn't lower than a human's. Looking at these people, it knew that they were after the dragon crystal fruit. Hiss hiss, instantly, the three-headed dragon horned pythons rushed out from all directions. Blazing heat exploded, and a terrifying aura spread out. Their ferocious mouths reeked of blood as they pounced towards the group. Under the thick scales, these three-headed dragon horned pythons had tough bodies. Their blazing heat and terrifying stench could even affect a person's soul and yuan qi. They were tough to deal with. We're in trouble. The three-headed dragon horned pythons pounced from all directions, causing the group's expression to change. However, none of these people were weak. They were all extraordinary. Although they were apprehensive and serious, they were not too flustered and immediately launched their attack. Boom boom, waves of aura swept out as weapons were unsheathed. Saber light and sword shadows converged together, creating a terrifying scene. Roar, some people used their yuan qi to form beast shadows. The battle was about to start. Muffled sounds could be heard as gales swept out in all directions. In an instant, rocks were blasted apart, causing sand and pebbles to fly. Roar. The 4 Yuan Zhen realm three-headed dragon horned pythons also move. Their intelligence wasn't lower than a human's. They sensed the aura of the 4 strongest people present, Su Yi, Su Chen, Chen Yanhuan and Jian Wuk. Their snake eyes were terrifying as their huge bodies pounced towards the group like dragons. Jian Wuk's luck wasn't too good. He was targeted by the strongest three-headed dragon horned python, which was at the third level of Yuan Zhen realm. Its three ferocious mouths spat out a bloody stench as its huge body pounced towards Jian Wuk. Chapter 776. The three-headed dragon horned python's strong physical body was its most powerful weapon. With a swing of its tail, it shattered several sword lights. At the same time, the three-headed dragon horned python raised its three heads with a ferocious aura. The snake head in the middle opened its mouth, spewing out a fishy smell. There was a red light fluctuation in its mouth, like a flame spreading out. It was so hot that it made people crawl. It bit at Jian Wuk. Swish, swish. Jian Wuk's figure changed without end. His sword light was sharp and released sword lights, blocking the ferocious snake head. Roar. The strongest three-headed dragon horned python was blocked. It sensed Jian Wuk's strength and roared angrily, attacking again. Rumble! At the same time, the remaining three Demon True Realm three-headed dragon horned pythons were on the verge of fighting with Su Yi, Su Chen, and Chen Yanhuan. The surrounding boulders were shattered. Powerful energy swept out, shaking the earth and mountains. Bang! Su Yi forced a three-headed dragon horned python back. There was an invisible and domineering aura of destruction, causing the three-headed dragon horned python's 6 eyes to be filled with astonishment. Although Su Yi had restrained the aura of the Origin Supreme technique, the three-headed dragon horned python still felt fear. However, Su Yi had restrained his aura. This three-headed dragon horned python's bloodline was not ordinary. After being forced back by Su Yi, its huge body crashed into a huge boulder. However, its ferocious head directly spun and dived out again. It roared and spat out a bloody aura from its ferocious mouth. Its aura was blazing, and its entire body was covered in red light. Its huge tail whipped at Su Yi. Evil creature! Su Yi roared. He was already prepared. Instead of retreating, he leaped forward and used the momentum to soar into the sky. His fist was wrapped in red light. Without any fancy moves, it directly collided with the snake's huge tail. There was a muffled explosion, like the sound of metal clashing. Sparks flew, and red light soared into the sky. Several scales on the three-headed dragon horned python's huge tail exploded and fell off. Blood spurted out, and it howled in pain. Its huge tail swung out, creating a huge hole in the nearby rock wall. Rocks rolled down, and there was a rumbling sound. Roar! The three-headed dragon horned python, which was at the first tier of the Demon Truth Realm, was enraged by the pain. It smashed its gigantic tail against the rock wall and took the opportunity to extend its ferocious three-headed snake head towards Su Yi like a flash of lightning. The stench of blood from its bloody mouth was oppressive, causing people to feel disgusted. Blazing rays of light surged like blazing flames, incomparably hot. Su Yi's eyes flickered. He didn't want to delay any longer, fearing that something unexpected might happen. At the same time, he released the aura of the primordial supreme art from within his body, concealing it slightly. Within his eyes, a crimson light suddenly covered them, and a tyrannical, destructive aura fluctuated. "Evil creature, get out of my way!" Su Yi shouted in a low voice. At this moment, the eyes of the three-headed dragon horned python at level 1 Demon True Realm widened. Its entire body trembled and its beast soul trembled. That domineering and destructive power was not something it could withstand. Instantly, its huge body crouched down on the ground and hissed. The look in its eyes was replaced by fear. The reaction of the three-headed dragon horn python was as expected. Su Yi was not too surprised. At the same time, the yuan qi under his feet moved and his body immediately pounced toward the blazing flame dragon crystal vine. Hiss! You Chapter R Section TF 2J7, 037 Unspecified Currency 59. Wherever Su Yi's figure passed, the other three-headed dragon-horned pythons stretched out from the surrounding rock. Just by sensing the aura on Su Yi's body, the three-headed dragon horned pythons prostrated themselves like lightning. Their intimidating snake eyes were filled with terror. The magma pool was like a volcano, and the hot aura was accompanied by a fishy smell. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to cross it. The hot aura and fishy smell were enough to make people fall into the pool. If they fell into the pool, they would definitely turn into white bones immediately. Sui was not afraid. At this moment, the aura of the Supreme Origin technique was secretly running. The demon soul of heaven origin in his mind ignored the fishy smell. He stepped on a huge rock beside the pool and soared into the sky. He crossed a distance of 20 feet. This posture was shocking and out of everyone's expectations. Ka. Sui landed on the rock wall where the blazing flame dragon crystal vine was climbing. A protruding rock under his feet cracked and rolled down. Sui's yuan qi under his feet moved and he took advantage of the momentum to leap up. His feet tapped on the rock wall and he landed lightly on a protruding rock wall not far away. A fist-sized, sparkling and translucent dragon crystal fruit appeared in front of Sui. Su has already obtained the dragon crystal fruit. In the midst of the battle, everyone was staring at the dragon crystal fruit. After all, it was the reason why everyone took the risk to come here. Seeing that Sui was already close to the dragon crystal fruit, someone couldn't help but exclaim. Gong Qi's black hair fluttered in the wind. Her body was shrouded in green light and mist. Her robe was fluttering in the wind. The green light was dazzling and the mist was spreading out. It was as if a water curtain had formed around her body, wrapping her graceful figure within. From afar, it looked like layers of boiling water. Her aura was surging as she fought with a three-headed dragon-horned python. She also sensed Sui approaching the dragon crystal fruit from the corner of her eyes. At this moment, Jian Wuke and Chen Yanhuan's eyes also changed. They never thought that Su would be able to get close to the dragon crystal fruit so quickly. Su Chen's luck wasn't too good. He encountered a three-headed dragon-horned python at the second layer of the Demon True Realm. Its strength wasn't something a first layer of the Demon True Realm could compare to. Bang! Although the three-headed dragon-horned python was ferocious, it was still pushed back by Su Chen. The scales on its body were damaged, and it roared in pain. Ao. At the same time, the strongest three-headed dragon-horned python at the third layer of the Demon True Realm roared. Its ferocious eyes changed, and it immediately retreated. It ignored Jian Wuke and pounced towards the blazing dragon crystal vine. The other two three-headed dragon-horned pythons also gave up on Su Chen and Chen Yanhuan at the same time. The three enormous bodies of the three-headed dragon-horned pythons pounced towards Sui in rage and savagery. As for Sui, who was already close to the dragon crystal fruit, he was overjoyed. He immediately plucked the first dragon crystal fruit. He wouldn't complain about having too many. He climbed and jumped like a monkey, and the second dragon crystal fruit was in his hand. Su, don't waste such a precious item. At the same time, Su Chen leaped out. His eyes changed and he shouted, as if he wanted to stop Sui from plucking the dragon crystal fruit. Ao, the three-headed dragon-horned pythons of the Demon True Realm leaped back together. Three mighty and terrifying auras surged. The scarlet light was especially dazzling in the darkness before dawn, illuminating the valley. Bastard, how dare you! Chapter 777. The three ferocious three-headed dragon-horned pythons were originally charging over furiously, but when they suddenly felt the aura on Sui's body, the originally frightening cold aura in their snake eyes was instantly replaced by shock and fear. Ao, the three-headed dragon-horned pythons hissed and roared in unison. Their huge bodies immediately fell into the boiling magma-like pool. Walala, lava splattered everywhere, as if it was raining lava in all directions. Smoke continued to rise in the void, like red fireworks exploding. Amidst the brilliance, there was a terrifyingly high-temperature aura that could incinerate everything. Not good. No one dared to touch this magma rain. They retreated, hurriedly dodged, and set up defensive measures. Some people screamed miserably, but there were still some people who didn't dodge in time. When the blazing magma fell, it could destroy the Yuan Qi light shield and corrode everything. It then drilled into their bodies and emitted flames, burning their flesh and blood. Many people's bodies were instantly charred black and bloody holes, causing them to scream miserably. Su Chen, who had just leapt out, had no choice but to rapidly retreat under this magma rain. He swept out his sleeve, shaking off the magma in front of him. Ao, the three-demon true stage three-headed dragon horned pythons fell into the magma-like pool. They were fearless, their thick snake scales opened and closed, as if the magma-like pool didn't affect them in the slightest. They raised their heads and roared, their chilling and ferocious snake eyes staring at Sui, already replaced by fear and awe. Hiss hiss, dollar. V2A700Q3Z75-9 The three-headed dragon horned pythons in all directions hissed, flicked their tongues, circled around, and instantly crawled to the surface of the pool. Their huge bodies spread out in all directions, crawling and hissing towards Sui, who was near the raging flame crystal dragon vines. All of this caused everyone to be flabbergasted, and their jaws to drop. This aura is so familiar, so strange, it seems to be the same as that guy in the crowd. Gong Qi's eyes were filled with surprise. She was all too familiar with the aura emanating from Isu's body. It was exactly the same as that guy's aura. Su-Yi stood on the rock wall, looking at the three-demon true stage three-headed dragon horned pythons being suppressed. He was overjoyed and was about to continue picking the remaining 4 dragon crystal fruit. Suddenly, a blazing heat came from his hand. Su-Yi could clearly feel that the 2 dragon crystal fruits in his right hand had melted. The dragon crystal dragon fruit dragon vines were melted, but it didn't gather together. Instead, it turned into wisps of smoke that rose into his palm and vanished into nothingness. What's going on? This change, Su, dragon horned dragon vines. Dragon horned dragon vines. Isu, you are wasting heavenly treasures. The dragon crystal fruits can't be picked directly, otherwise they will turn into nothingness. You have to use the leaves of the raging flame crystal dragon vines to pick them. Su Chen shouted from afar, his heart aching. This guy actually used his bare hands to pick the dragon crystal fruit. This is a waste of heavenly treasures. Su Chen immediately rushed out again. Jian Wuk and Chen Yanhuan's countenance drastically changed as they blocked the lava rain. After which, the 2 silhouettes dashed out, intending to snatch the dragon crystal fruit. Roar! Inside the lava pool, the 3-demon true realm 3-headed dragon horn pythons and the 3-headed dragon horn python that Su-Yi had forced back attacked at the same time. They hissed and roared, causing large amounts of lava to splash as they tried to block the trio. On the cliff, Su-Yi's eyes twitched fiercely. It turned out that the dragon crystal fruits couldn't be picked directly. Looking at the 2 dragon crystal fruits gradually melting in his hand, Su-Yi couldn't care less. How could he waste such precious treasures? Without any hesitation, he directly raised his hand and stuffed the 2 dragon crystal fruits that had already melted into his mouth, swallowing them in one gulp. At the same time, Su-Yi did not delay. He glanced at Jian Wuk from the corner of his eye. Chen Yanhuan and the others had already pounced over. Their figures were like agile monkeys as they casually plucked a few blazing flame dragon crystal vine leaves and harvested them along the way. In the shortest time possible, they collected all 4 dragon crystal fruit. Bang! 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 The collision of energy was like thunder, causing the lava pond to boil and the boulders to crumble. 4 demon true stage 3-headed dragon horned pythons blocked Jian Wuk, Su Chen, and Chen Yanhuan. Although Jian Wuk, Su Chen, and Chen Yanhuan were powerful and wanted to fight for the dragon crystal fruits, they didn't hold back. Their auras surged as they wrapped themselves in dazzling light. However, they still couldn't break through the blockade of the demon true stage three-headed dragon horned pythons. Hiss! In all directions, the three-headed dragon horned pythons raised their heads and exploded with scarlet light. At this moment, when the last dragon crystal fruit was stored in his spatial bag, Su-Yi suddenly let out a miserable shriek and fell into the lava pond. Bang! The pond water splashed and the temperature fluctuated. Everyone was flabbergasted and flabbergasted. Jian Wuk, Su Chen, and Chen Yanhuan, who wanted to continue attacking, also stopped and looked at Su-Yi, who fell into the pond. What's going on? All the dragon crystal fruits have been plucked by the Bawang sex Yi-Su. Someone exclaimed. They had avoided the splashing lava pond water. Many people had seen with their own eyes that all the dragon crystal fruits had been stored in the spatial bag by the ferocious Yi-Su. Yi-Su alone had obtained all the dragon crystal fruit. However, out of the dozens of people in the group, 3 of them had fallen into a pool of blood. They had been killed by the splashing lava pond water and had bloody holes in their bodies. There were also dozens of people who had suffered light or heavy injuries and were in a sorry state. In the lava pond, Su-Yi's body fell and was immediately enveloped by lava. The boiling hot pond water around him boiled as if it wanted to burn and destroy everything. Subconsciously, Su-Yi didn't have any scruples. He circulated the Origin Supreme Art in his body, and his Yuan Qi leaked out, enveloping his body. His Vajra body immediately emitted a scarlet radiance. Su-Yi's face was ferocious and scarlet. He swallowed the spiritual liquid of the 2 dragon crystal fruit. At first, Su-Yi didn't feel anything, but after a few breaths, the spiritual liquid of the 2 dragon crystal fruits spread throughout his body like a blazing fire dragon rushing through his body. The energy was enormous, like a ferocious dragon charging through his body. This energy was blazing hot, as if it wanted to burn Su-Yi's internal organs, limbs, and muscles. What kind of tempering had Su-Yi not experienced before? However, this energy was too enormous, and its aura was extremely hot. It charged through his body from the inside out, causing Su-Yi to scream miserably. However, Su-Yi soon realized what was happening. He circulated the Origin Supreme Art and isolated himself from the lava pond water. He floated in the pond water, surrounded by a scarlet radiance. At the same time, he said to the 3-headed dragon horned pythons, "Protect me." Chapter 778. Many pairs of snake eyes stared at Jian Wuk, Su Zhu, Chen Yanhuan and the others as they roared like dragons. Hiss hiss, T27Q0, 3/7. 5T9 3-headed dragon horned pythons were entrenched in all directions, layer upon layer. Their intimidating snake eyes emitted a cold and frightening light. What is going on? Why are these 3-headed dragon horned pythons protecting Yi-Su? Everyone was flabbergasted. Their eyes were wide open as they stared at the scene in front of them. These ferocious 3-headed dragon horned pythons were actually protecting Yi-Su. Jian Wuk and Chen Yanhuan's expressions changed. All the dragon crystal fruits had landed on Yi-Su's body. Looking at Yi-Su's reaction, it seemed like he had just swallowed 2 dragon crystal fruits and was at the critical moment of refining them. If they attacked now, their chances of success would be higher. However, with these 3-headed dragon horned pythons around, it would be extremely troublesome. Jian Wuk and Jian Wuk looked at Su Chen. They could see Su Chen's strength. He was able to force back a level 2 demon true realm 3-headed dragon horned python. This was already proof of his strength. If they joined forces with him, they might have a chance to snatch the dragon crystal fruits from Yi-Su. Whoever dares to attack, don't blame me for being impolite. Su Chen understood when he sensed Jian Wu's and Chen Yanhuan's gazes. His incomparably handsome face revealed a stern expression as his voice reverberated throughout the canyon. Then, Su Chen looked at Su Yi, who was in the boiling magma pool. He frowned and muttered, "This fellow, does he not want to live any more?" The crowd looked at each other with complicated gazes. They looked at Su Yi, who was in the middle of the pool. Immediately, some of them gritted their teeth. All the dragon crystal fruits had been obtained by that fellow alone. Furthermore, he had swallowed 2 of them. What was even stranger was that the 3-headed dragon horned pythons were protecting him, leaving them helpless. This is too much. The last one to arrive actually took away all the dragon crystal fruits. He doesn't put anyone in his eyes at all. Obviously, everyone had made a move, but he actually snatched all the dragon crystal fruits alone. In front of the temptation of the dragon crystal fruit, no one could resist it. Everyone's gazes landed on Jian Wu and Chen Yanhuan. Everyone knew that the only way to obtain the dragon crystal fruit was to let Jian Wu and Chen Yanhuan take action. Not to mention that they couldn't deal with Yi Su. These 3-headed dragon horn pythons were already enough to make them tremble in fear. Unfortunately, although Chen Yanhuan and Jian Wu frowned as they stared at Su Yi and the group of 3-headed dragon horn pythons in the pool, and occasionally glanced at Su Chen, both of them seemed to have a tacit understanding as they turned around and left. Jian Wu and Chen Yanhuan were very clear that given their strength and the fact that Su Chen seemed to be protecting Yi Su, they knew that they didn't stand a chance. All of this was too strange, leaving them helpless. They didn't dare to delay any longer. They still had to step onto the void's sacred martial platform, so they could only leave first. After seeing Jian Wu leave, Gong Qi looked at Su Yi from afar. A light flashed in his eyes before he left with doubts. This is too much. Too much. How can he be so excessive? Many people were filled with hatred and sullenness. However, Jian Wu and Chen Yanhuan also left. They didn't even dare to linger. They could only leave the canyon. They were afraid that the 3-headed dragon horn pythons would suddenly attack with their artifacts. At that time, they would be in trouble. They wouldn't be a match for them at all. Su Chen ignored the others. His gaze was fixed on Su Yi. The group of 3-headed dragon horn pythons stared at him with cold, ominous eyes. "I don't have any ill intentions. I am with him." Su Chen frowned. Facing this group of 3-headed dragon horn pythons alone, he was somewhat fearful. He was afraid that these 3-headed dragon horn pythons would suddenly attack. The eyes of the 3-headed dragon horn pythons flashed with cold light as they sized up Su Chen. However, they didn't seem to believe Su Chen's words. However, they didn't seem to have any intention of attacking Su Chen. They just surrounded Su Yi, protecting Su Yi. Su Chen felt very helpless. He could only wait at the side. He watched the changes in Su Yi's body and frowned slightly. His expression was grave as he muttered, "This fellow is too ruthless." Su Yi sat cross-legged in the magma-like pool. A red essence chi barrier surrounded him, blocking the boiling magma. In Su Yi's body, the 2 dragon crystal fruits transformed into fiery dragon-like energies. They charged through his body, causing Su Yi's body to burn from the inside out. Fortunately, Su Yi had the body of diamond. The cultivation method of the body of diamond was originally forged with the fire of the earth's core. Otherwise, an ordinary first-level Yuan Zhen realm martial artist would be burned to death after consuming a single dragon crystal fruit. Not to mention that Su Yi had swallowed 2 dragon crystal fruits at once. Su Yi was already familiar with this situation. He endured the pain in his body and his face twitched ferociously. He operated the Origin Supreme technique and refined the energy of the dragon crystal fruits into pure Yuan Qi. This refined and pure Yuan Qi circulated 36 times in Su Yi's body and then poured into the Dantian's Qi Si vortex. As this energy was refined, Su Yi could clearly feel that there was a strange energy that went deep into his internal organs and body. It merged with every cell in his body, causing a strange change to occur in the depths of his body. It was like a wonderful transformation. However, this transformation was very slow. Su Yi's body, from the inside out, had been refined and transformed countless times. This wonderful transformation only made Su Yi feel a little at the beginning. In the end, it seemed to be difficult to feel. However, this transformation continued. As long as there was enough time, it would naturally converge into a river. Walala, the energy of the 2 dragon crystal fruits was too great. An endless stream of yuan qi poured into the Dantian's qi sea vortex. Su Yi's sea of qi in his dantian was already different from before. It gave off a hazy glow and a sparkling spiritual glow. It was as if it had formed a layer of light film, causing the yuan qi within to become increasingly dense and pure. The energy was too great. Soon, Su Yi felt that he was about to break through again. Enduring the pain in his body, Su Yi's aura began to rise slowly. His breath inhaled and exhaled red light, like a spiritual snake. This inhaling and exhaling of his breath had a special rhythm. It was deep and long. Walala, as Su Yi's aura rose, the magma-like pool outside the red yuan qi barrier also began to ripple. Only 9th level origin spirit realm. Chapter 779. This caused Su Chen to be even more shocked. His heart could not help but fluctuate. Although Yi Su did not use his full strength in their battle back then and had held back, his true strength was only at the 9th level of the origin spirit stage. If they were at the same level, Su Chen did not dare to imagine what would happen if the two of them fought. The magma-like pool undulated as Su Yi's aura continued to rise. At an extremely fast speed, the rising aura stopped at a certain peak. But at this moment, Su Yi's hand seals were formed as the yuan qi within his meridians constantly emitted thunderous rumbles. Like a flood, it rushed towards the center of the yuan qi vortex. Rumble. The surging yuan qi directly rushed into the yuan qi vortex in his dantian. Suddenly, a rumbling sound spread out from the yuan qi vortex in Su Yi's dantian. At the same time, the vast yuan qi vortex in Su Yi's body violently trembled, as if it was about to collapse and expand, opening up a vacuum. Rumble. In an instant, the surrounding natural energy gathered in the valley before dawn and poured into Su Yi's body, causing the magma pool to undulate violently like a huge wave. He's actually about to break through. Not far away, Su Chen revealed a look of astonishment. 2 dragon crystal fruits, that guy had actually managed to resist them and was even about to break through. The Yuan Spirit stage to the Yuan True stage was the dream of all Origin Spirit stage practitioners. Su Chen was even more clear that the Yuan True stage and the Yuan Spirit stage were 2 completely different levels. If Yi Su stepped into the Yuan Spirit stage, his strength would skyrocket and become even more terrifying. But very quickly, Su Chen's astonished eyes became filled with astonishment when he sensed the change in Su Yi's aura. Su Chen could sense that Lin Yun was not breaking through, but was forcefully preventing him from breaking through. Indeed, Su Yi was forcefully preventing him from breaking through. Strictly speaking, Su Yi was cultivating the Great Void Divine Ocean. Circulating the Origin Supreme technique, Su Yi directly isolated the Yuan Qi that was pouring into the Yuan Qi vortex in his dantian, guiding the natural energy to refine the Yuan Qi vortex. Buzz! Within his dantian's qi sea, a rumbling sound rang out. An enormous stopping and rebounding force suddenly gushed out, causing Su Yi's entire body to tremble. Bang! A huge muffled sound rang out in Su Yi's mind, causing Su Yi's soul to tremble. This commotion caused Su Yi to nearly lose his balance. The blood in his body surged and he nearly vomited blood. Even though this was not Su Yi's first time cultivating the Great Void Spirit Ocean, the cultivation of the Great Void Spirit Ocean was not something that one could easily familiarize themselves with. The cultivation of the great void spirit sea was more dangerous and difficult than the previous one. However, the previous two cultivation of the great void spirit sea did give Su-yi a lot of experience. Mentally prepared, he circulated the Origin Supreme technique with all his might, gathering the natural energy that was pouring into his body and rushing it into the Dantian's Qi-Si vortex. At this moment, the surging natural energy had not been refined, and it directly rushed into the Dantian's Qi-Si vortex in Su-yi's body. If he was not careful, it would directly destroy the Dantian's Qi-Si vortex. If it was light, he would become a cripple, and if it was heavy, he would directly kill himself. The Yuan Qi vortex in Su-yi's Dantian emitted a roaring sound, as if thousands of beasts were galloping, trying to break through the vortex in Su-yi's Dantian's Qi-Si vortex. On Su-yi's forehead, large beads of cold sweat continuously appeared. His body twitched and his face was hideous. This was self-abuse, and it was extremely painful. This kind of pain was far more torturous than the energy impact from the two dragon crystal fruits in Su-yi's body. Su-yi's face was red and swollen, and his face was hideous. His body twitched, and at this moment, his body and the Dantian's Qi-Si vortex were experiencing immense pain. It was not something that an ordinary person could compare to. Only by enduring the most bitter of hardships can one rise above others. Su-yi gritted his teeth. He knew that he had to control himself, or else the consequences would be unimaginable. Rumble, there was a trembling sound in his body, and the Origin Supreme technique was circulating. From Su-yi's Dantian's Qi-Si vortex, a mysterious force gushed out and guided the natural energy to spread out. This process was very dangerous, and it was also a mysterious and overbearing method. Su-yi wanted to guide the natural energy to various parts of the Qi-Si vortex, and condense and temper it. It was extremely painful, and it was self-abuse, and it was equivalent to suicide. However, after repeated tempering, the Qi-Si vortex in Su-yi's body was also slowly strengthening in a very special way. Ao ao! Around the magma pool, the three-headed dragon horn pythons roared like dragons. At this moment, under the aura that was constantly spreading out from Su-yi's body, their snake eyes were filled with awe, and their bodies prostrated themselves in worship. This guy is too mysterious. All of this caused Su Chen's eyes to ripple. The darkness before dawn had passed, and the sky gradually brightened. In the eastern horizon, a ray of light spread out, illuminating the sky. Gradually, the sun rose, and the sky was as blue as jade. The brilliant sunlight shone down from the dense cracks in the rock walls, forming a thick and thin beam of light. The valley, which was covered in a thin veil of fog, looked like a faint ink painting. Rumble, in the lava-like pool, the rumbling noise was still going on. At some point, Su-yi's body was covered in a red light, and his exposed skin was sparkling and translucent. It gave people a feeling of flawlessness, purity, and fullness. But at this moment, Su-yi's face was still ferocious, and his body was trembling. What is this guy trying to do? Is he trying to play himself to death? Not far away, Su Chen had already stood up and stared at Su-yi as if he had seen a ghost. He saw with his own eyes that Su-yi's aura was continuously breaking through. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times. This was already the 5th time. In a short period of time, Su-yi had 5 chances to break through to the Yuanjin stage, but all 5 times, Su-yi had stopped and forcibly cut himself off. Su Chen was completely stunned. Even if this was some kind of secret technique, it was too monstrous. 5 chances to break through, and all of them were cut off. From Su-yi's painful expression, Su Chen knew that Su-yi was enduring a kind of torture that ordinary people couldn't endure. This was self-abuse. But in the midst of his shock, Su Chen's eyes were also filled with shock. Su Chen could feel that every time Su broke through, his aura would become more vigorous and powerful. Although each breakthrough was blocked, His aura would become stronger and more vigorous, shocking everyone. Aolo, the three-headed dragon horn pythons hissed and roared, prostrating themselves in worship. Gazing at Su-yi, who was in the lava-like pool, the snake pupils constricted as shock gushed out. The aura that permeated the air caused the beast souls in their minds to constantly palpitate. Chapter 780. Su-yi did not expect that he would break through again and again. The energy of the two dragon crystal fruits was so vast that he couldn't stop breaking through. When Su-yi's third refinement of the Great Void Spirit Sea had just calmed down, the energy of the dragon crystal fruits in his body surged again, leading to a breakthrough. This forced Su-yi to continue cultivating the Great Void Spirit Sea. In a short period of time, Su-yi experienced 5 breakthroughs. The energy of the dragon crystal fruits was beyond Su-yi's imagination. And the dragon crystal fruits did indeed contain surging energy. Even if an Origin Void Realm cultivator consumed it, it would have a great effect. What's more, Su-yi had swallowed the energy of 2 dragon crystal fruits. 5 breakthroughs in a row. Su-yi cultivated the Great Void Spirit Sea 5 times, each time more dangerous than the last. No one could understand what kind of torment Su-yi had gone through in the morning. No one knew what kind of danger he had gone through. After 5 breakthroughs, the energy of the dragon crystal fruits in Su-yi's body finally calmed down. The fiery dragon-like energy no longer surged, but it had not been completely refined. It was just that with the large consumption and Su-yi's invisible improvement, it had reached a point where it could be suppressed. Time gradually passed, and the sun rose high. Is this guy not going to participate in the sacred martial assembly? Su-chen was a little worried. Time gradually passed. According to the situation, even if he could break out of the sacred martial secret world, he would not be able to enter the final battle. Su-chen frowned and looked at the sky. Finally, in the magma pool, the movement of Su-yi's body calmed down. His eyelashes trembled, and he opened his eyes. A mouthful of turbid qi was exhaled from his abdomen, and a red light fluctuated in his eyes. Looking into his body, Su-yi's mouth curled up in shock. This was the 7th successful refinement of the Great Void Spirit Sea. 5 times in a row, Su-yi couldn't help but feel his heart tremble as he sensed the changes within his body. Within his sea of qi vortex in his Dantian region, the fluctuations of spiritual light were like starlight. This was a process of constant qualitative change. Time and time again, it was no longer the same as before. Despite the dangers involved, Su-yi knew that in a short period of time, it was as if he had seen the gates of hell 5 times. He was glad that he had succeeded. In a short period of time, the Great Void Spirit Sea had been tempered 5 times. Su-yi estimated his current combat strength and felt a sense of confidence. In just one morning, his strength had increased by 10 times compared to before. 7 times, 2 more to go. Taking a deep breath, Su-yi's lips curled into a smile. The Great Void Spirit Sea had already been tempered 7 times, and he only needed 2 more times before he would be able to successfully cultivate it. By then, he would be able to truly step into the Yuan Zhen stage. Of course, there were still 2 more times. Su-yi didn't dare to be careless. Even though he had succeeded 7 times, it didn't mean that the Great Void Spirit Sea was already 70% complete. The next 2 times would be even more dangerous and difficult. Su, are you going to participate in the Sacred Martial Assembly or not? We're already too late. Just when Su-yi was feeling a little proud, Su-chen's voice sounded in his ears. His magnetic voice carried a hint of helplessness. Su-yi raised his eyes and smiled. The yuan qi in his body surged, and his body suddenly soared into the air. With a tap of his feet, he jumped out of the magma pool and landed on the back of the 3-headed dragon horn python that was at level 3 demon true realm. Ao, the 3-headed dragon horn pythons stared at Su-yi, hissing and roaring. They stood with their heads held high, but their gazes towards Su-yi were filled with reverence. Seeing this, Su-chen was secretly shocked. This was too unbelievable. This guy seemed to be able to make the barbaric beasts submit to him. Swoosh! Su-chen landed from a high place and unfolded his body. His posture was elegant and graceful, but he still stayed far away from the three-headed dragon horn pythons, afraid that they would suddenly attack. "I'm sorry for the delay." "Many thanks." Su-yi's gaze swept across the surroundings. Looking at everything in the canyon, he roughly understood the situation. He guessed that Jian Wuk, Chen Yanhuan, and the rest had already left. The final battle of the Sacred Martial Assembly would not wait for anyone. However, Su-chen did not leave and was guarding him. "I wonder if I can make it in time." Su-chen rolled his eyes at Su-yi, but his eyes were filled with unconcealable shock. Staring at Su-yi from afar, Su-chen could feel that this guy had undergone an astonishing transformation. Although this guy had not truly broken through to the Yuan True Realm, he was definitely much stronger than 4 hours ago. In less than 4 hours, this guy had become even stronger. He had been given 5 chances to break through to the Yuan True Realm, but he had forcefully refused to do so. This must be some kind of secret technique, a kind of self-torture tempering for himself. $2, 7M0B3WM75, 09XX. However, Su-chen did not have any intention to ask. He secretly estimated that if he had fought with this fierce guy with all his strength, he would still have some confidence in himself. However, as he watched that ferocious fellow from afar, Su-chen's confidence in himself seemed to be lacking. Su-yi smiled embarrassedly. He tapped his foot on the back of the three-headed dragon horn python and his figure flew out. He landed beside Su-chen. At the same time, he handed over a dragon crystal fruit wrapped in a dragon crystal vine to Su-chen and said, "The effect of this dragon crystal fruit is not bad." Su-yi's praise for the dragon crystal fruit came from the bottom of his heart. He did not expect the effect of 2 dragon crystal fruits to be so powerful. Even the surging energy had not been completely refined, it was still quietly entrenched in his body. The energy inside the dragon crystal fruit also had the effect of increasing one's talent. Su-yi could feel the benefits it brought, but his body seemed to have been tempered to a certain extent by the Origin's supreme art. It had already surpassed the benefits of the dragon crystal fruit, so it was not so obvious anymore. Looking at the dragon crystal fruit in Su-yi's hand, Su-chen did not hesitate to take the fruit. He was quite moved. The energy of the dragon crystal fruit was enormous, not to mention that an ordinary peak 9th layer Yuan True Realm cultivator would not dare to directly swallow a dragon crystal fruit like this. However, this guy had swallowed 2 dragon crystal fruit. If it was an ordinary person, he would have been killed. However, this guy was still alive and kicking. His transformation was astonishing. The dragon crystal fruit is something that you are supposed to protect. Thank you for your protection. If there is a chance in the future, I will take you away from here. Su-yi turned his head and said to the 3-headed dragon horn pythons. He directly threw a dragon crystal fruit to the strongest 3-headed dragon horn python at the 3rd layer Yuan True Realm. Chapter 781. Aolo, the 3-headed dragon-horned python at the 3rd level of Yao True Realm, was overjoyed. It raised its head and stretched out its head. The middle head opened its mouth and flicked its tongue, sucking the dragon crystal fruit into its mouth. The surrounding 3-headed dragon-horned pythons roared and hissed. Someone's here. Suddenly, Su-yi looked outside the canyon. With his sharp soul power, he sensed someone approaching. Hiss! Immediately, Su-chen and the other 3-headed dragon-horned pythons also sensed it and looked towards the entrance of the canyon. Under everyone's gazes, a figure cautiously appeared. Coarse clothes covered his entire body, and a hood covered his head. From afar, only a small part of his face could be seen. Looking at that figure, the three-headed dragon-horned python's eyes became intimidating. Their auras became ferocious, and a cold aura surged out, filling the canyon with a fishy smell. That figure raised his head and looked at the large group of three-headed dragon-horned pythons in front of him. His eyes were filled with surprise. When his gaze fell on the two youths, especially Su-Yi, who had used an appearance-changing technique, the figure's surprised eyes immediately filled with joy. From afar, he said, "You're Yi-Su. You're really here. It's you." Looking at this somewhat mysterious figure, Su-Yi was also very surprised. He recognized him at first glance. This was none other than the scaled youth he had seen a few days ago in Central Continent City. "You know this guy?" Su-Chen also found it strange. He also recognized him. He had seen this youth in a hurry on the martial stage in Central Continent City and had a deep impression of him. "OS, I've finally found you." The scaled youth's eyes were filled with joy as he hurried over to Su-Yi and Su-Chen. He seemed to be 16 or 17 years old. His body was completely covered from the neck down, and he also wore a hood that covered his face. Only when he raised his eyes could one see half of his face. "Do you need something from me?" Su-Yi was somewhat surprised. He didn't seem to be familiar with this youth. He only had an impression of him. This youth had wanted to register for the Sacred Martial Assembly, but had gone to the wrong martial stage. He had once given him directions. "Something big has happened. Many people have set up a trap to kill you." The scaled youth raised his eyes. His entire face was covered in black scales, and his hair was very messy. Even the top of his head was covered in sparse black scales that intertwined with his sparse hair. There were wrinkles and veins on his face, making him look very ugly. However, when he looked at Su-Yi, his eyes revealed relaxed, as if his heart had been tense all this time, and he was finally able to let out a sigh of relief. "Someone wants to kill me?" Hearing this, Su-Yi was Dragon Horn Demon. As for this youth's appearance, Su-Yi wasn't surprised. He already knew. According to Merciless West, this youth was also a half-monster, a descendant of a monster and a human. However, the union between a monster and a human would go too smoothly. It was impossible for both the human and monster races to accept it. The descendants of a monster and a human would only have a 1 in 1,000 chance of being normal. The rest would either die prematurely or become half-monsters. They wouldn't have any special talent, and would even be bought in the underground black market as livestock or playthings. Half-monster, half-human, half-monster. There weren't many monster talents. Only those with a powerful half-monster body would be stronger than ordinary people. From Shi Wuqing's words, Su-Yi knew that the scaly young man in front of him seemed to be half-human and half-beast. He could barely be regarded as a half-demon. He seemed to be related to the scaly demon clan, but it seemed a little different. They seemed to be disciples of the sacred mountain. There are also many people from other mountain sections. They have set up a killing trap and are waiting for you. The scaled youth told Su-Yi. He accidentally saw everything and heard the conversation of those people. There were disciples of the sacred mountain and some disciples from other mountain sections. They had joined forces and set up a killing trap at the last place of the sacred martial secret world. They were waiting for Su-Yi and wanted to kill Su-Yi. Sacred Mountain. Hearing the two words, Sacred Mountain, Su-Yi already believed 90% of it. Su-Yi wasn't surprised. He had already received the news. There was a flash of red light in his eyes, and his gaze was cold. He then asked the scaled youth, "How do you know me? How do you know that the person they want to kill is me? I've seen you before. I know that your name is Yi-Su. I accidentally heard their conversation. There are many of them, and they are very strong. They want to kill you. You are a good person who helped me. I don't want you to die in their hands. I asked about your whereabouts and also heard that you obtained a treasure here. Many people are still waiting outside, but it seems that they don't dare to come in. The scaled youth looked at Sui. His face was covered with scattered scales and blue veins. He looked at Sui with a sincere gaze. He was grateful to Sui for showing him the way. At that time, when everyone looked at him with disgust and hostility, only Isu didn't evade or hate him. He knew that such a person must be a good person. Although it was rumored that this Isu of the Bawang sect was a fierce person. Thank you. Sui nodded to the scaled youth. It seems that the disciples of the sacred mountain are ready to deal with you. What's your plan? Su Chen said. However, he wasn't worried about Sui. Not to mention now, even with Su Yi's previous strength, it wouldn't be easy for the disciples of the sacred mountain to kill him in the sacred martial secret world. I've worn out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it without any effort. Let's do as they wish. Sui said leisurely. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He was looking for the disciples of the sacred mountain. In the sacred martial secret world, there was no need to be afraid of the sacred mountain. I still don't know your name? Sui asked the scaled youth. My name is Yen Lin because I have scales on my body. Yen Lin was a little embarrassed. His body was covered with scales. He was half human and half beast. My name is Isu. I'm from the Bawang sect. Sui introduced himself. My name is Su Chen. Su as in nothingness and Chen as in the mortal world. Su Chen smiled and introduced himself to Yen Lin. I've seen you before. You're very strong and a good person. Yen Lin nodded and smiled at Su Chen. He seemed a little nervous and shy. No one had ever treated him so warmly and sincerely. He had even taken the initiative to introduce himself. He had also seen Su Chen before. From Su Chen's eyes, he couldn't see any hostility or disgust. Compared to this guy, I'm definitely a good person. Su Chen glanced at Sui. Compared to this guy, he felt that he was really a good person. Can you tell me where the disciples of the sacred mountain are waiting for me? Sui inquired. He wanted to know where the disciples of the sacred mountain were. They're at the center of the sacred martial secret world. They seem to know your approximate location and have calculated the path you must take. They want to join forces to kill you. Chapter 782. Don't count me in. The holy mountain wants to kill him, not me. Su Chen waved his hand and said with a smile. Yen Lin felt that it was a bit strange. Looking at Su Chen and Isu's relationship, it seemed like it should be very good. But why did it seem like their relationship was different from what he had imagined? Do you want to help? We can talk about it. As long as you give me the Nebula Ganoderma, I'll help you. How about it? While Yen Lin was astonished, Su Chen's gaze shifted as he discussed with Sui. Sui ignored Su Chen and rolled his eyes. He looked at the sky and narrowed his eyes, murderous intent filling them. He muttered, Then I'll collect some interest first. If you want to kill me, I'd like to see if the holy mountain will feel heartache. After saying that, Sui left the valley. Wait for me. Su Chen followed Sui. Yen Lin hesitated for a moment before following as well. When he saw Su Chen following him, he found it strange and asked, Didn't you say you didn't want to help? I didn't say I wanted to help. I just wanted to watch the show, Su Chen replied. Yen Lin didn't understand and was very confused. 3 figures jumped out of the valley. It's Isu. It's really him. I heard that he got all the dragon crystal fruits. That guy is too fierce. I heard that Jian Wuk and Chen Yanhuan were there too, but they didn't get a single dragon crystal fruit. Outside the gorge, there were many people moving about. They stared at the 3 silhouettes walking out of the gorge, and their gazes were fixed on the young man in the middle. They had heard the news and wanted to see the situation. Anyway, at this time, they felt that they wouldn't be able to reach the sacred martial platform in time with their cultivation. Thank you for the news. Let's part here. Offending the holy mountain won't do you any good. Sui said to Yen Lin outside the valley. Su Zhu was unfathomable. He seemed to have a great background and wasn't afraid of offending the holy mountain. Sui didn't want to care about that guy. However, Sui was already very grateful that Yen Lin had come to deliver the news. He did not want to cause any more trouble for Yen Lin. Yen Lin hesitated. The sacred mountain was indeed an unattainable existence for him. The reason why he participated in the sacred martial assembly this time was because he hoped to have the opportunity to enter the sacred mountain to cultivate and change himself so that he would no longer be hated by others. But I'm afraid you won't be able to defeat them alone. Yen Lin was worried. There were a lot of people from Saint Mountain, and they were all very powerful. Isu was just one person. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to defeat so many people from Saint Mountain. Don't worry, the disciples of the sacred mountain won't be able to kill this guy. Su Chen patted Yen Lin's shoulder and said, Don't offend sacred mountain, it won't do you any good. Whoosh whoosh, soon Sui and Su Chen left. It was getting late, and they still had to compete for the 32 void sacred martial stages. They are all good people. Looking at Sui and Su Chen's departing figures, Yen Lin raised his eyes slightly and muttered to himself. Isu has left. I wonder if the three-headed dragon horned python is still inside? Maybe there are still treasures inside. Seeing Sui leave, many youths at the entrance of the canyon were discussing. They were eager to go in and take a look. Maybe they would miss out on some treasures. Anyway, they already couldn't compete for the void sacred martial stages. Finally, someone couldn't bear it anymore and entered the canyon together. 70% 37p $, 5 KD 9H roar roar. Soon, the beast roars in the canyon were like thunder. Miserable screams resounded, echoing in the canyon. Many figures fled in panic. Some were drenched in blood and it was too horrible to look at. Some were still in shock, wishing that they could grow 2 more legs. Whoosh whoosh, in the mountains, Sui didn't care about the huge amount of yuan qi he had to consume. He hurried on. Not to mention collecting some interest from the sacred mountain, he also needed to compete for the void sacred martial stages. Otherwise, he would lose the meaning of participating in the sacred martial assembly. Sui's speed was fast, but he was also careful. He was on guard against his surroundings, running very far away in one breath. Su Chen followed beside Sui. The two figures were like afterimages as they passed through the mountains. Along the way, when people saw them, they were shocked, thinking that their eyes were playing tricks on them. The two were also competing in speed. Sui was very surprised. Su Chen was indeed unfathomable. He had almost used his full strength, and it was even after he had improved again, but he still couldn't close the distance. No matter how fast he was, Su Chen was able to follow him closely. Sui didn't know that Su Chen was even more shocked than Sui. Waves surged in Su Chen's heart. His master had said that regardless of battle prowess, there were only a few people in the same generation who could beat him in terms of speed. Unless it was those monstrous figures hidden in the ancient sections. But now, Su Chen couldn't help but doubt his master's words. Isu in front of him hadn't even broken through to the Yuanjin realm. But now, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't surpass this guy. He even had a feeling that if this continued, he wouldn't be able to hold on and would be left behind sooner or later. The sacred martial secret world was an ancient forest. Towering trees stood densely, and huge mountains and rocks stood tall. The closer one got to the center of the sacred martial secret world, the stronger the savage beasts the young people encountered. A gigantic barbaric demon beast roared and blocked the path of the young disciples. In the void, there were huge ferocious birds flapping their wings, like dark clouds pressing down on the sea of trees. Their ferocious auras swept out in all directions. Sui released the aura of the Origin Supreme technique. He didn't want to waste any more time. Along the way, he encountered many savage beasts blocking his way. but from afar the savage beast's eyes trembled in fear, and they made way for him. Mountains. The vast mountain range meandered like a giant dragon. In front of them, there was a vast expanse of mountain wilderness. A lone mountain stood in the middle of it. It was majestic and tall, and there were a few towering trees that spread out like giant umbrellas. On the mountain, there were about 40 young people, all of them dressed in bright clothes. Although some of them had dried blood stains on them, it was obvious that they had been through a lot. Their clothes were stained with blood, but it couldn't drown out their temperament. They were all extraordinary and outstanding. The towering trees were lush and green. A young man was sitting cross-legged. He was about 21 or 22 years old. His skin was as clear as jade, and his long black hair hung down to his shoulders. He was wearing a purple robe. Although he was sitting cross-legged, one could see that he was tall and slender. Sitting there, he had an indescribable elegance and a dignified appearance. He was Chu Zhanghuan. Rumor had it that among the disciples of the sacred mountain who came to participate in this sacred martial assembly, his strength was the closest to Naren Ryu. He was also the most likely contender for the championship of this sacred martial assembly. Chapter 783. Senior Brother Chu, I'm afraid there won't be enough time. I'm afraid someone will rush out soon. An extraordinary young disciple stood behind Chu Zhanghuan. He looked up at the sky and frowned. They were waiting here to surround and kill the Bawang sect's Yisu. This was the path they had calculated after receiving Yisu's message. However, Yisu still hadn't appeared. If they delayed any longer, it would affect their competition on the Void's sacred martial platform. This is an important matter. Let's wait a little longer. Chu Zhanghuan spoke in a faint voice without raising his head. I heard that fellow obtained 6 dragon crystal fruits from Jian Wuk and Chen Yanhuan. His luck is really good. Some youths looked envious. A treasure like the dragon crystal fruit was difficult to obtain even for disciples of the sacred mountain. It was something they could only come across by chance. That brat seems to have a secret technique that allows him to control the demonic beast. Could it be related to the Beast Emperor sect? A young man in luxurious robes spoke. Only the Beast Emperor sect had some methods to control the demonic beast. A soul controller can also tame barbarian demonic beasts. That brat himself is a soul controller. Someone reminded him that Su Yi from the Bawang sect was also a soul controller. So what if he's a soul manipulation master? As long as that brat appears here, he's dead for sure. He'll end up in the sacred martial secret world. I heard that Yisu is refining the dragon crystal fruit. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it in time. Refining the dragon crystal fruit, if I'm not careful, I'm afraid it won't be easy to succeed. If that brat dies by himself, then our long wait would have been in vain. Could it be that the brat got some news and was so scared that he didn't dare to come? On the mountain, many people were discussing. After waiting for a long time, the person they were waiting for did not appear. They also wanted to fight for the qualifications to enter the Void's sacred martial platform, so they had lost their patience. Whoosh, 2 figures appeared. They were 2 young men. One of them looked ordinary, but he had a powerful aura. The other had a handsome face that could move the hearts of all the women in the world. The 2 of them were none other than Su Yi and Su Chen. With Su Yi's origin supreme arts aura and the fact that there were no demon beasts blocking their path, they were able to arrive here as quickly as possible. It seems to be here. Su Chen looked at the towering lone mountain in front of him. He raised his head and glanced at Su Yi. His face was a little pale from the exhaustion of the journey. He smiled and said, "Do you need help? There are a lot of people." Su Yi didn't say anything. His eyes narrowed. Suddenly, the yuan qi under his feet moved, and his figure swept to the side. Boom! At the same time, not far from the side, a white sun flame soared into the sky, and an explosion sounded like fireworks. Look at CQ2G7/0A3 75CL9M in Section C of the original DD chapter. Chi-Chi at this moment, on Lone Mountain, Chu Zhanghuan's slightly closed eyes opened. His eyes were clear and bottomless. He's here. Isu is here. Everyone's eyes twitched and they sneered. Isu was really here. Chi. An extraordinary young man had just sent out a signal when he saw Isu from the Bawang sect. He was ecstatic. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of him, and a familiar yet strange face grew bigger and bigger in his eyes. Oh no! The young man was not weak. He immediately retreated in surprise. Chi-Chi. Red light fluctuated and bloomed, bringing with it a faint blazing aura. A handprint had already arrived. The young man's face was filled with shock as he shook his arm. He had long heard of Isu's ferociousness and terrifying strength. Not daring to be careless, he used all his strength. The yuan qi in his body surged and gathered on his fist as he punched towards the palm print. Bang! A low muffled sound rang out as the two collided. Yuan qi radiance exploded, and the surroundings trembled. The 5 fingers of the former's handprint curled and directly restrained the young man's fist, making it impossible for the latter to move an inch. Puff! A huge impact of yuan qi rushed into the young man's body through his fist. The young man's fist was in pain, and his qi and blood were in turmoil. He immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with horror. His opponent's strength was much more terrifying than he had imagined. "You're not from the sacred mountain?" Sui grabbed the young man's fist with one hand. His eyes flashed coldly. Looking at the young man, he didn't seem to be from the sacred mountain. He hadn't seen him in the lineup of the sacred mountain yesterday. "I'm a disciple of the Xianyuan sect. Let me go. My Xianyuan sect has a good relationship with the sacred mountain. Otherwise, the sacred mountain won't let you go." The young man trembled for no reason. That cold gaze made his hair stand on end. His voice was also trembling. "The Xianyuan sect is the same," Sui said. The Xianyuan sect obeyed the orders of the sacred mountain. He had killed several disciples of the Xianyuan sect along the way. A murderous intent surged in his eyes. Ka-ka, above the palm, a red light surged. Ka-ka, sound came from the young man's fist. The bones in his fist were directly broken. Before he could scream, he was killed. His body went limp and fell to the ground. Sui kept a space bag in his arms. He looked at the lone mountain in front of him. Suddenly, a faint voice mixed with yuan qi came out of Sui's mouth. "The so-called sacred mountain is rotten on the inside. If you want to kill me, then let's see if you have the strength to do so. Get out here." His voice reverberated, mixed with yuan qi. It was like a thunderclap that rumbled through the sky and shook the void. "Hey, there's movement! It's related to the sacred mountain." Many people in the surrounding mountains looked up and heard such a voice. "Quick, something big might have happened," someone said, and figures immediately rushed in the direction of the voice. This place was already at the center of the sacred martial secret world. There were already many people around. Soon, people appeared nearby. "He's here." On the lone mountain, under a towering tree, Chu Zhanghuan stood up. His purple robe fluttered, and a blazing light surged in his clear and deep eyes. There was an inexplicably powerful aura fluctuating from his body. In an instant, Chu Zhanghuan's temperament became more and more majestic. The surrounding void also faintly solidified. The dust and sand on the ground fluttered and spun for no reason, forming a special aura around him. "That kid seems to have gotten the news. So what? He's here at the right time. Kill him." The disciples of the sacred mountain were extraordinary. If he were alone, he would be afraid of Isu of the Bawang sect. But today they were a group of people. If they wanted to kill Isu, it would be as easy as flipping their hands. "He's here?" On the mountain, someone's eyes flashed. It was a familiar yet unfamiliar young man walking up the mountain. Some things must be obtained. Chapter 784. Su-yi walked out, his aura fluctuating as he walked towards the open area of Lone Mountain. There were auras fluctuating there. The disciples of the sacred mountain were all gathered there. At the foot of the mountain, Su-yi raised his head slightly and looked up. Su-chun had been following behind Su-yi. He looked around and reminded Su-yi, "Be careful. I'm afraid there will be traps. Let's end this quickly." Su-yi's eyes were cold. After pausing for a few breaths, he walked out with killing intent surging in his eyes. He still wanted to fight for the sacred martial platform in the sky. He had to end this quickly. Under the disguise, Su-yi's appearance did not stand out. His black hair hung loosely over his shoulders, but his innate arrogance was not hidden at all. It was released naturally, making people feel pressured for no reason. There was a powerful aura that made people's hearts tremble. Whoosh whoosh, nearby figures rushed over and appeared in the surroundings. "It's him, Isu of the Bawang sect. I know him." Someone immediately recognized Su-yi from afar and exclaimed. It turned out that something big was going to happen. It seemed that Isu of the Bawang sect and the disciples of the sacred mountain had encountered each other here. Outside the city lord's mansion, Isu of the Bawang sect had publicly injured Ouyang Jinwei, an important disciple of the sacred mountain. This had caused the sacred mountain to lose face. Many people had already guessed that the disciples of the sacred mountain would not let Isu go if they had the chance in the sacred martial secret world. Now they were glad that they had come at the right time. There should be a big battle next. Su-yi went up the mountain. There was a faint red light fluctuation on his body. He was circulating qi in his body, emitting a powerful aura. Su-chen also went up the mountain, but he only followed behind Su-yi. He was not too close nor too far, and his expression was much more indifferent. Whoosh whoosh, soon, many figures flew down from the mountain. Waves of extraordinary auras fluctuated. Numerous figures appeared around Su-yi in an instant, surrounding Su-yi. Clang clang, weapons were unsheathed. There were sabers, spears, swords, halberds. The cold light was intimidating, and the wind and thunder were sonorous. Their levels were not low. Su-yi's gaze swept across the crowd quietly, his murderous gaze calming down quite a bit. There were a total of 40 figures, half of which were disciples of the sacred mountain, but there were also some who were not disciples of the sacred mountain. They were probably disciples of the so-called Xianyuan sect, Tiangang sect, Tiangang sect, Tiangang sect, Tiangang sect, and other mountain sections. Their cultivation aura was clearly inferior to the disciples of the sacred mountain. Looking at this formation, Su-yi understood that the people of the holy mountain had really set up a killing trap. They had clearly planned out the places he would pass through in order to kill him. After a glance, Su-yi raised his head slightly and looked up at the mountain. Under a towering tree, there was a familiar figure in a purple robe standing in the distance. His figure was tall and slender, elegant and extraordinary, and he had a dignified appearance. Chu Zhanghuan. Su-yi knew this person. It was rumored that he was ranked second among the younger generation sent by the sacred mountain to participate in the sacred martial assembly. His cultivation was far above Ouyang Jinwei's. This lineup, coupled with Chu Zhanghuan's presence, was enough to prove the extent of the sacred mountain's desire to kill him. A faint coldness flashed in his eyes. There were so many disciples of the sacred mountain. Those who could participate in the sacred martial assembly should be important disciples of the sacred mountain. Su-yi felt that if all of them died in the sacred martial secret world, the sacred mountain would feel heartache. Isu, you have repeatedly provoked the sacred mountain. Today you will pay the price. Among the group of disciples of the sacred mountain, a young man in luxurious clothes who seemed to be the leader spoke. He had an extraordinary temperament and a powerful aura. He held a 3-foot-long sword in his hand and pointed it diagonally to the void. The light was intimidating, and the sound of wind and thunder could be heard. It had to be said that this young man was extraordinary. However, standing beside Chu Zhanghuan, his brilliance was overshadowed. At this moment, standing with the other disciples, he suddenly stood out. His eyes were bright, and his temperament was extraordinary. They are indeed from the sacred mountain. They are going to attack Yisu. Many disciples of the sacred mountain are probably prepared. They won't let that Bawang Sek's Yisu go. Bawang Sek's Yisu has humiliated the sacred mountain several times and angered them. However, they are disciples of the sacred mountain. Isn't it a bit too much to deal with an unknown disciple of the Bawang sect? This is the sacred martial secret world. As long as Yisu dies, others won't be able to say anything. Hey, Yisu seems to be with 2 people. Who is the other person? Is he with Yisu? Unspecified currency F first. 9M. Does that person want to be with Yisu? Does he dare to offend the sacred mountain? Soon, many people had appeared around them and were secretly discussing. Some people also noticed Su Chen and were very surprised. Was there someone else who wanted to offend the sacred mountain with Yisu? Looking at the young man in luxurious clothes who spoke in front of him, Su Yi glanced at him indifferently. However, he did not speak, as if he had no intention of paying attention to him. Whoosh, in the distance, a figure flew over, his face completely covered by a hood. He raised his eyes to look at the activity on Lone Mountain, his speed increasing by several notches. After a few leaps, the person appeared outside the encirclement of the sacred mountain disciples surrounding Su Yi. "Do you want to die?" shouted a sacred mountain disciple. His eyes were cold. They were encircling the Bawang sect's Su Yi, yet someone dared to intrude. Su Yi and Su Chen also sensed that someone had appeared. They turned around and were surprised. The person who had arrived was none other than Yan Lin. "You're bullying us with numbers. This is a bit unfair." Yan Lin raised his head and looked at the sacred mountain disciples who were ready to fight. He frowned and then looked at Su Yi and Su Chen who were surrounded. He smiled. His smile was not pleasant to look at, but it was very sincere. Half human, half beast. So it's a bastard. So it's a half-beast. When they saw Yan Lin's appearance, many people immediately showed disgust and disdain. Half-human, half-beast humans had always been treated like livestock. Yan Lin couldn't help but lower his head in front of those gazes and harsh words. Yan Lin was a bit disappointed. He originally thought that the sacred mountain was a heaven and holy land for cultivators. The disciples of the sacred mountain shouldn't be like this. The disciples of the sacred mountain might be different. But now, Yan Lin felt that the disciples of the sacred mountain were the same. Su Yi turned around and said to Yan Lin, "We're unrelated. Leave quickly. This isn't fair. They have a lot of people. I can help you deal with a few." Yan Lin hesitated for a moment, then raised his head and said to Su Yi. He chased after them because he felt that he had to help. Yisu and Su Chen were good people. He could feel that he didn't want them to be killed. "It's fine. I don't put these small fries in my eyes. Leave." Chapter 785. "Yisu, I'm talking to you. Are you deaf?" The leading young man in luxurious clothes was getting impatient. The corner of his eyes twitched as his voice was infused with yuan qi, shaking the void. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Yisu did not seem to care about him at all. Such disregard made him feel somewhat embarrassed. Hearing this, Su Yi turned around and looked straight at the young man in luxurious clothes. He said indifferently, "You're not qualified. Let Chu Zhanghuan do it." "Yisu, you're too arrogant. You won't be able to escape today." The young man in luxurious clothes was enraged. His voice that was infused with Yuan Qi resounded through the void. He knew that he could not do anything to Su Yi with his strength. However, he was also one of the most outstanding young disciples of the sacred mountain. No one had ever dared to look down on him, let alone treat him with such disdain. He had his own pride, and with so many people around him, he had the confidence to back it up. If Chu Zhanghuan doesn't want to go first, then I'll take care of you first. Come at me together. Su Yi's voice was rather flat. He really didn't care much about the disciples of the sacred mountain. Too arrogant. You're courting death, the young man shouted. Yuan Qi immediately gushed out from his body. He did not hold back the aura of a peak 9th level origin spirit realm as he leaped into the air. Yuan Qi light erupted from his feet, and a beast shadow that looked like a living creature appeared. Coo! A bird's cry pierced through the clouds and cracked stone. A giant black condor with a wingspan of several feet instantly formed under the young man in luxurious clothes. It flapped its wings and emitted a ferocious aura that swept across the area. Everyone attack! Kill this arrogant bastard! The young man in luxurious clothes shouted. Yuan Qi formed under his feet as he stepped onto the giant black condor. The sword in his hand was extraordinary. Wind and thunder clanged as it carried a mighty aura. He took the lead and pounced towards Su Yi. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, dozens of extraordinary auras rushed out. Every one of them was an outstanding figure among the Central State's younger generation. They were all young heaven's prides. In an instant, the sabers, spears, swords, and halberds all exploded with radiance. Numerous vital chi forms erupted, and the roars of beasts resounded, shaking the void and the heavens. When this type of aura gathered together, it was also shocking to the extreme. Sand and rocks flew everywhere, and the earth and mountains shook. The scene was terrifying. This was an encirclement. In an instant, dozens of attacks were directed at Su Yi from all directions. Brat, you will definitely die today. The finely dressed young man attacked. His black earth attribute Yuan Qi was deep and gloomy, and it was astonishingly vigorous. The aura of the Xuediao was terrifying. The wind and sand were like a storm, and the screeching sound pierced through the clouds and cracked the rocks. The luxuriously dressed young man was shrouded in black light. At this moment, he was standing on the shadow of the imperial condor and holding a treasured sword in his hand. How extraordinary was he! He was like a young war god, incomparably dazzling. So strong! The sacred mountain has made their move. They're actually joining forces to kill the Bawang sect's Yi Su. More and more onlookers in the distance were shocked and dumbfounded. From afar, he could sense that the aura on Lone Mountain was terrifyingly powerful. That was a group of disciples from the sacred mountain. Any one of them was an existence that was difficult to defeat. But at this moment, so many disciples from the sacred mountain had actually joined forces to kill the Bawang sect's Yi Su. The one leading them is Mo Beiming of the sacred mountain's 100 heroes. What a powerful strength, as expected of a disciple from the sacred mountain. Someone in the distance couldn't help but exclaim. The one leading them was one of the sacred mountain's 100 heroes. His strength was indeed terrifying, and his attacks were extraordinary. The finely dressed young man was called Mo Beiming. He knew that with his strength, he wouldn't be able to do anything to Yi Su. Even Ouyang Jinwei couldn't defeat him, so he shouldn't be able to do anything. But Mo Beiming had confidence. With so many people, it was enough to kill Yi Su. At this moment, Mo Beiming also attacked with his full strength. He didn't hold back and directly used his trump card. He erupted with his strongest state. Black earth attribute Yuan Qi surged out like black flames burning around his body. It was terrifyingly powerful. Qi La. Stepping on the imperial condor, black light surged. Mo Beiming attacked with his strongest move. The black sword light was like a black bolt of lightning. Xiao xiao xiao, sword light flew out one after another, as if forming a sword net. An endless pressure filled the air, causing the earth to tremble and cracks to appear. Accompanied by the power of the imperial condor under Mo Baming's feet, it emitted an astonishingly sharp fluctuation. Xiao xiao! Awu! At the same time, there were also attacks from all directions that rapidly swept towards Sui. They were also as fast as lightning. The youths in the surroundings were all extraordinary people. Not a single one of them was weak. There were also people who attacked Su Chun. Wherever the sharp aura passed, it quickly arrived in front of him. Facing such an attack, Chu Zhonghuan's bottomless eyes, who was under the towering tree, also surged with fluctuations. He carefully observed with a calm expression. Not good, Bawang Sek's Isu is going to die. Bawang Sek's Isu is extraordinary. He seems to have the protection of the heavenly palace outside. But he provoked the wrong person. He shouldn't have offended the sacred mountain. Discussions broke out in the distance. Their eyes trembled, and they sucked in a breath of cold air for Sui. The fastest far on El Kama? 2Z70 unspecified currency *37. 59 / under the siege of so many disciples from the sacred mountain, no matter how strong this Bawang Sek's Isu was, he was definitely going to die. He was probably going to die in the sacred martial secret world. It was a long story, but everything happened very quickly. In an instant, above Lone Mountain, light erupted. Beasts roared endlessly. Winds rose and clouds surged. Then let's see if anyone will feel heartache. Sui moved. At some unknown time, his hands had slightly curled into fists. His eyes flickered with a red light. The Yuan Qi in his body transformed into earth attribute Yuan Qi, flowing through specific meridians in his body. At the same time, earth attribute Yuan Qi gathered around Su Yi's body. The attacks from all sides instantly closed in. Mo Baming's sword also swooped down. It was close to the top of his head. The sword light was deep and black light overflowed into the sky. It was also at this moment that a dazzling light shot out from Su Yi's eyes. It was as dazzling as lightning. His robe fluttered, and his black hair fluttered behind him. At this moment, the aura on Su Yi's body seemed to carry the fury of thunder. His eyes were like torches. He suddenly lifted his right foot and took a step forward. At this moment, a Yuan Qi whirlpool swept out from under Su Yi's foot like a storm. Boom! When his foot landed, the earth trembled and the air roared. From where Su Yi's foot landed, circles of black earth attribute Yuan Qi energy swept out like waves. Crack crack, the ground where Su Yi's foot landed cracked. Cracks as thick as an adult's arm spread out in all directions like a spider web. The surrounding rocks and dust were instantly shattered into fine powder. His aura soared to the sky, and the void was shaken to the point of rapidly fluctuating. Awu! Chapter 786. Bang, bang, bang. Yuan Qi formed beast phantoms shattered one after another, like fireworks blooming on Lone Mountain. Under the gorgeous light, a monstrous aura spread in all directions. One figure after another fell from the mountain, landing on the ground in a sorry state. Their eyes were filled with horror, and some people kept vomiting blood. What's going on? Shocked voices could be heard from the distant onlookers. They were extremely shocked and dumbstruck. What does it have to do with me? I'm just here to watch the show. Su Chen also made his move. His white robe fluttered in the wind, and from his slender and straight figure, a white Yuan Qi light enveloped his entire body. A powerful pressure immediately swept out. Qi. Su Chen appeared in front of a young man holding a long spear at an incredible and ethereal speed. White Yuan Qi entangled his slender and beautiful fingers. His hand seal had already formed, and a claw print stretched out from the white Yuan Qi light. The claw print was like a cloud and mist, like a dragon's claw. It emitted a great pressure, and its aura made people tremble for no reason. Chi-La, the former's long spear, was caught and could no longer move an inch. At the same time, a fierce killing intent flashed in Su Chen's clear eyes. A fingerprint swept out and a fierce wind swept out, landing directly between the young man's eyebrows. The fingerprint rapidly expanded in the young man's eyes. Horror gushed out from the depths of his eyes, and the aura of death climbed out from the depths of his soul. The fingerprint went straight to the center of his eyebrows, and a bloody hole appeared. Blood flowed out, and the young man's body fell down, but his eyes were still wide open. Even in death, the young man couldn't believe that he couldn't withstand a single blow. He was also a disciple of the sacred mountain. Among the younger generation, how many people could be his match? He knew that it would be difficult to deal with the Bawang sect's Isu, but even in death, he didn't know why he couldn't withstand a single blow. Section B. %F% 27D0H hashtag 3V7 5LF9 inch. You guys are such bullies. Almost at the same time, Yen Lin's loud shout rang out. Scarlet light filled his body and the scales on his body glowed. It was as though pieces of broken armor were covering his body. The veins on his face wiggled, and he looked even more ferocious. However, at this moment, the aura on Yen Lin's body was unusually powerful. His body rushed out like a flash of scarlet lightning as he pounced on the battlefield. His fists were like two dragons emerging from the sea as two scarlet lights surged and shot out. Before the two young men with powerful auras could recover from their shock, the origin energy manifestation beneath their feet shattered. Their bodies were also sent flying, spurting blood as they fell to the ground. I didn't provoke you. Attacking me? Are you courting death? After killing a young man, Su Chen's eyes turned sharp. He attacked again. His hand seals changed and a storm appeared around him. The sound of wind breaking could be heard in the air as a faint shadow of a flood dragon rushed out. A dragon roar could be faintly heard. It carried a terrifying pressure and caused the air to tremble as it rushed out in all directions. Rumble, wherever the storm passed, the ground cracked and the mountains shook. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions, causing the ground to explode. Crack, crack, one after another, cracks appeared on the ground. Rumbling noises kept ringing out, and dragon roars shook the sky. Whoosh, everything happened at the same time. The surroundings were in chaos as the origin energy manifestation shattered. The Shui bird beneath Mo Baiming's feet also shattered. His face was filled with shock as he fell. However, the black sword in his hand had already slashed down. The sword light was deep like a black sun. Rumble! When the sword light landed, it created a huge crack in the ground where Su Yi was standing. Rocks were constantly blasted apart and turned into dust. However, Su Yi had already disappeared. When Su Yi's figure reappeared, he was already in front of Mo Baiming. At such a close distance, Su Yi's hand had already reached out. Scarlet light burst out and grabbed Mo Baiming's neck with lightning speed. A cold light gushed out from Su Yi's eyes as he swung his hand. Mo Baiming's body was immediately lifted off the ground. His body spun 360 degrees in the air and slammed into the ground in the most direct and simple way. Bang! The ground rumbled and cracks spread out in all directions from where Mo Baiming landed. Blood spurted out from his mouth, and the sound of bones breaking could be heard from his body. All the bones in his body had been shattered in an instant. At this moment, Mo Baiming's originally dazzling eyes had long been filled with fear. The sword in his hand had also fallen to the side. Everything happened too fast, so fast that no one could react. The surroundings were in chaos. There were dozens of young disciples from the sacred mountain. Although only half of them were true disciples from the sacred mountain, the rest were disciples from the Heavenly Dipper sect, Heavenly Sun sect, and other sections. However, these disciples were still elites of the younger generation. None of them were weak. There were dozens of outstanding figures among the younger generation, not to mention the disciples of the sacred mountain. All of them were geniuses. They had joined forces to attack Yifutian. That was a mighty force, but it was destroyed in an instant. The surroundings were a mess. Dozens of youths were in a sorry state. Their hair was disheveled and their eyes were filled with fear. Some people vomited blood, dripping with blood. Some people's robes were stained with blood and their faces were deathly pale. They fell to the ground in a panic. Outside Central State City, among the thousands of mountains, the tallest one towered into the clouds. Early in the morning sun shone brightly. 2 giant flood dragons coiled around each other. Their eyes were red and their bodies were covered in blue scales. There were 2 horns on their heads. They were swift and fierce, majestic and ferocious. Looking at the time, someone should be coming out soon. The city lord of Zhongzhou City, Ouyang Yuanfeng, raised his eyes and looked at the void in front of him. There was a dense and flickering light there. According to the pattern of the previous sacred martial arts conferences, someone would soon break out of the sacred martial secret world. 30 years ago, Ouyang Yuanfeng had also participated in the sacred martial gatherings. It was at that time that his name spread far and wide. "I wonder what the situation inside is like," Kwang Guilin said. Her eyes were cold and flickering with a cold light. "That kid must die inside. Otherwise, when he was outside, he would be protected by the people from the heavenly palace. It would be troublesome to get rid of him. It should be settled by now." Wang Chuanda smiled. His voice paused for a moment as he looked at the stone table in the middle of the crowd. There were more than 30 palm-sized white stones neatly arranged on it. They were like crystals, flickering with light and filled with vitality. "Judging from the life-soul stone, none of our disciples from the sacred mountain died this time. So, that kid should have been killed directly." Chapter 787. Once they entered the sacred martial secret world, the disciples of the sacred mountain would leave a wisp of soul power connected to it so that outsiders could monitor its movements. If a disciple died inside, the life-soul stone would be extinguished immediately, and the outside would be able to determine the approximate situation and location inside. If there was a major accident, it would be convenient to send experts in to investigate. "The thing from the demon-slaying sect is very important," Elder Bingchao said lightly, with a hint of expectation in his eyes. The Bawang sect's Isu was purely courting death. In fact, he wouldn't be able to cause any big waves. However, the wooden box from the demon-slaying sect was very important to the sacred mountain. They had to get it. Hopefully, the wooden box would always be with that kid. The thing from the demon-slaying sect appeared in Zhongzhou City, so it can't fall into the hands of others. At the mention of the demon-subduing sect's wooden chest, the eyes of a few elders who looked like elders of the sacred mountain flashed. "That kid is dead anyway. I wonder how many disciples of the sacred mountain will occupy on the void's sacred martial platform later." Wang Chuanda looked at the void in front of him with a smile. This time, he could come to Zhongzhou City with a group of elders, which also proved that the higher-ups valued him. As long as he improved further, it wouldn't be far for him to enter the elder seat. Voila! Suddenly, on the stone table, a life-soul stone extinguished instantly, and the light disappeared. Not good, a disciple died. Some experts immediately noticed this. Their eyes moved and their brows furrowed slightly. These young disciples were the foundation and backbone of the sacred mountain in the future. Many of them were the personal disciples of some of the people present, so no accidents could happen to them. What's going on? Wang Chuanda was also very surprised. After all, the sacred mountain was the main designer of the sacred martial secret world. Before the disciples of the sacred mountain entered the sacred martial secret world, there were many things to pay attention to. Coupled with the strength of the disciples of the sacred mountain, the chances of them dying were not too high. Voila! Just as everyone was surprised, a few more life soul stones on the stone table extinguished one after another, proving that a few more disciples of the sacred mountain had died. Elder Binko's expression also changed, and his eyes became solemn. Sacred martial secret world, around Lone Mountain. At this moment, the entire area fell into a deathly silence. The eyes of the spectators in the distance trembled, and all of their gazes were fixed on the three figures. Those three young men had instantly destroyed the attacks of dozens of people from the holy mountain. How terrifying was that! It was too unexpected. No one had expected such an outcome. Originally, everyone thought that Yi Su of the Bawang sect would die without a doubt. Who would have thought that in the end, it would be the disciples of the Holy Mountain who would suffer a crushing defeat? The encirclement formed by dozens of people was also defeated, unable to withstand a single blow. Bawang sect's Yi Su's kick had shattered dozens of disciples' Yuan Qi forms, causing them to fall to the ground. That horrifying scene was deeply engraved into the depths of everyone's souls. Yi Su of the Bawang sect was terrifyingly powerful. No one would have thought that the two people by Yi Su's side would be so terrifying. Especially that white-robed young man. His strength was not much weaker than Yi Su's. Su-yi raised his hand and picked up the treasured sword, as well as the dying Mo Beiming. He looked straight at Chu Zhanghuan on the mountain with a cold smile on his face. Suddenly, Su-yi swung his hand and threw Mo Beiming's body towards Chu Zhanghuan. Under the tremendous force, Mo Beiming spat out a mouthful of blood and a bloody mist. His body smashed towards Chu Zhanghuan like Luan Fei's stone. At the same time, Su-yi swung his hand. Mo Beiming's treasured sword shone with a dazzling light. Like a bolt of lightning, it shot towards Chu Zhanghuan, as if it wanted to cut through the void. The sound of the wind breaking could be heard incessantly. Chu Zhanghuan's expression changed. His expression became very unsightly at this moment. The corner of his eyes twitched. His purple robe fluttered as he dodged to the side. Mo Beiming's body smashed into the towering tree. Under the tremendous force, the towering tree shook and cracked, its bark exploding. Whoosh! The sword light was like lightning. In front of Mo Beiming's terrified eyes, it directly pierced through his chest and nailed him to the towering tree. Blood splattered. Mo Beiming's eyes were tightly shut in despair. His head drooped down powerlessly. Blood flowed down the trunk of the tree. Such an outstanding disciple of the sacred mountain could definitely be considered a genius. However, he was killed by Yi Su in such a manner. He was nailed to the tree and died under his own sword. How fierce was this scene! Everyone was shocked. Even Su Chun and Yen Lin's eyes twitched. They were shocked. Mo Beiming was also killed. What is going on? On the highest mountain in the outside world, the sacred mountain's people could no longer remain calm. One figure after another stood up. Their gazes changed greatly and their expressions became serious. Even a disciple like Mo Beiming was killed. His life soul stone had been extinguished. This made the experts of the sacred mountain realize the seriousness of the problem. For so many disciples to die at the same time, there must be a big problem inside. Otherwise, even if they died, it wouldn't have happened at the same time. Something big must have happened inside. Bing Fu frowned with a dignified expression. Even the sacred mountain couldn't bear such a loss. The sacred mountain had spent a great deal of effort on every single disciple that came to the sacred martial assembly this time. Such a loss would cause the entire sacred mountain to feel heartache. On Lone Mountain, the scene was shocking. Even from afar, one's heart was pounding with fear. Mo Beiming, one of the sacred mountain's 100 heroes, was killed in such a manner. It was too shocking. Everyone could see that Yi Su was enraged. Killing Mo Beiming in such a manner was a counterattack against Chu Zhanghuan and the entire sacred mountain. The sacred mountain's people wanted to kill Yi Su. At this moment, Yi Su didn't show any mercy and used the most direct method to counterattack. On Lone Mountain, Chu Zhanghuan glanced back at Mo Beiming's death, and then looked straight at Su Yi. His bottomless eyes had unknowingly froze. Su Yi's eyes surged with coldness. If he directly killed Chu Zhanghuan, compared to killing all the Sacred Mountain's disciples, it would probably cause the Sacred Mountain to feel even more heartache. The two figures faced each other from afar. The air around Lone Mountain seemed to have frozen for no reason, becoming tense. Many of the Holy Mountain's disciples scrambled to their feet and retreated in panic, not daring to come any closer. Mo Beiming was nailed to the mountain. That was the most direct and soul-deep impact to them. It made their hair stand on end, their bodies involuntarily trembled, and their legs went soft. "You're very strong, much stronger than I imagined. Therefore, I really want to know how strong you are." Chapter 788. However, at this moment, Chu Zhanghuan's battle intent had also been aroused. He wanted to personally kill this brat to end everything. Su Yi's gaze froze on Chu Zhanghuan's cold and murderous face. Scarlet light surged in his eyes as a chilling aura slowly emerged. However, he did not open his mouth as Yuan power flowed under his feet. With a tap of his foot, he directly leapt forward and charged forward. At this moment, Su Yi was responding to Chu Zhanghuan in the simplest and clearest way. As he watched Su Yi stride forward, a sinister arc emerged from the corners of Chu Zhanghuan's eyes, which were filled with cold, killing intent. At the same time, a surge of vigorous Yuan power gushed out from his body like a storm, instantly dashing out from the top of Lone Mountain. Boom! Space trembled as the entire Lone Mountain seemed to shake endlessly. At the same time, a sacred light spread out from Chu Zhanghuan's body as the aura within his body soared. Very quickly, the aura within Chu Zhanghuan's body reached its peak as a sacred light enveloped his body. It was as if a hazy, illusory figure that was several meters tall had enveloped his body, as if an ancient god had descended. Its eyes were like two bright suns that contained a merciless and cold chilliness, accompanied by an astonishing ancient pressure. M Head PFAV2, R70F 3759 cc rumble. The entire Lone Mountain shook as the aura soared into the heavens. The surging Yuan power from Chu Zhanghuan's body was like a storm that wanted to envelop the entire Lone Mountain. A third-level Yuan Zhen stage. Is this the Saint Ruler aura of the Sacred Mountain? It's actually so powerful. When Chu Zhanghuan's aura unreservedly swept out, even Su Chen, who was standing in the distance, was moved. A ripple appeared in his eyes on his incomparably handsome face. Even he was moved by Chu Zhanghuan's level 3 Yuan Zhen realm cultivation base. What a powerful aura! It's not something that Mo Beiming can compare to. That's Chu Zhanghuan. It's said that his strength is only below that of Naren Ryu, who came to participate in this sacred martial assembly. When the terrifying aura swept out and soared into the heavens, the surrounding figures' gazes trembled, and their hearts trembled as they watched from afar. In the distance, the crowd felt that the Yuan power within their bodies was about to be blocked. Even their souls were affected. The aura was extremely terrifying. Chu Zhanghuan is so powerful. Is this the legendary Saint Ruler aura of the Sacred Mountain? The Saint Ruler aura of the Sacred Mountain is rumored to be able to crush everything. Such a huge, hazy figure was incomparably divine. It was like an ancient god had descended, bringing with it a terrifying pressure that caused the energy of the world to tremble chaotically. Chu Zhanghuan's aura, the aura's aura, was already frightening enough to make everyone's eyes' mouth. And before you die, I'll let use Sacred Mountain. Before you die, let dies. Everything happened very quickly. Chu Zhanghuan sneered as his aura surged. He went all out without holding back. He knew the strength of this Bawang Sex Isu. He had seen it with his own eyes, so he didn't dare to be careless. He stomped his feet on the ground and faced Sui, who had jumped straight up. Instead of retreating, he advanced, and the sacred figure swooped down. Boom! Chu Zhanghuan's aura soared into the heavens, and there were signs of wind and clouds surging in the surroundings. Chu Zhanghuan's giant figure's eyes were like the sun, and his body's radiant yuan qi light fluctuated. In an instant, the figure's 5 fingers stretched out and the void distorted. A huge boulder with a diameter of several zhang rose from the ground, shrouded in a dazzling yuan qi light. Then, the boulder trembled and directly turned into a meteorite falling from the sky. Walala! This kind of attack was so fierce that it made everyone's jaws drop. The boulder rushed down furiously and the void trembled. With a thunderous sound, it smashed down on Sui. Everyone's eyes trembled. If Sui was hit, Sui would probably be smashed into meat paste. Sui's figure leaped up. He had seen the sacred aura on Chu Zhanghuan's body before on Ouyang Jinwei. It was oppressive and could crush everything. It was indeed incomparably powerful. However, Sui's heavenly Fei ancient scripture had nothing to fear from this aura, let alone the Origin Supreme technique. Sui had no intention of dodging as he stared at the terrifying giant rock. Instead, a sinister glint stealthily gushed out from his eyes. Chi! The soles of his feet tapped on the ground, and his figure rose from the ground. While Sui's body was floating in the air, mysterious and ancient runes flowed on his feet. Unfamiliar runes gushed out, and a mighty aura suddenly swept out. At this moment, Sui's temperament suddenly changed. It was as if a fiend god had awakened. His black hair fluttered behind him, and his robes fluttered. The aura on his body seemed to carry the wrath of thunder. He was like a god of war that had descended to the world. Footprints rushed out as fast as lightning. His aura was domineering and destructive. In the blink of an eye, endless footprints erupted, and light gathered, causing space to distort for no reason. Gorgeous energy radiance surged. This was the second kick of Sui's 8 Desolation Fury, violent shadow shattering 9 nether. These people were all from the Holy Mountain, and none of them had seen him before. Sui wanted to kill Chu Zhanghuan, and he did not hold back. It was too fast. Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, the two collided, bursting out dazzling energy rays. Terrifying energy rose like a small sun. Energy explosions resounded like thunder, resounding through the clouds and spreading in all directions. Bang, bang, bang. The muffled sounds were endless, like heavenly drums and heavy hammers. The entire lone mountain was shaking and rumbling, the earth quaking and the mountains shaking. Under the resplendent light, the meteorite-like boulder only froze for a moment before cracks appeared all over it. Then, it exploded, turning into fine powder that scattered in all directions. Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, footprints rushed out like furious thunderbolts, constantly landing on Chu Zhanghuan's incomparably huge and hazy figure. Bang! 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 A series of muffled sounds resounded from Chu Zhanghuan's figure. Every time Sui's footsteps landed, Chu Zhanghuan's huge body would take a step back. The ground beneath his feet would crack, creating a huge trench along the way. It was as if he wanted to tear the mountain in half. Every time Chu Zhanghuan took a step back, the huge hazy figure would become more substantial and shrink. His eyes were filled with shock. Bang! After taking the last step back, Chu Zhanghuan's enormous body completely dissipated, and the divine aura dissipated. His body heavily smashed into the ground, and a mouthful of blood suddenly splashed out from his mouth with a "pu" sound. Chapter 789. At this moment, Sui did not delay. He landed on the ground, his hair fluttering behind him. His figure flashed, and a red light flashed. In an instant, he appeared in front of Chu Zhanghuan. The dazzling light in his eyes flashed like lightning, and a chill surged. This sudden change caused Chu Zhonghuan's eyes to twitch fiercely. But Chu Zhonghuan was worthy of being one of the most outstanding disciples of the Holy Mountain. He immediately reacted. His left palm suddenly slammed on the ground, and his body bounced up in a straight line. At the same time, a bright light erupted from his right hand, and a mighty aura erupted like a volcano. He clenched his fist, and the void around his fist faintly caved in. A faint vacuum appeared, as if a void crack was about to appear. In an instant, an ancient and terrifying aura spread out, accompanied by a sonorous sound, like thunder. Holy Monarch Big Dipper Fist. In a panic, Chu Zhonghuan erupted with extraordinary reaction speed and terrifying strength. He was worthy of being a top disciple of the Holy Mountain's younger generation. In the end, he threw out a punch with all his strength. Although he was severely injured, Chu Zhonghuan was still terrifying. At this moment, it seemed that his attack was not affected much by the injury, and the aura on his body climbed to its peak. The Holy Monarch Qi had collapsed and dissipated, but under Chu Zhonghuan's purple robe, a special light and rune-like patterns spread out on the surface of his body. At this moment, the aura on his body was not weaker than before, and even seemed to be stronger. Those who were familiar with Chu Zhonghuan would know that the Holy Monarch Qi was the dream of all the disciples of the Holy Mountain, but Chu Zhonghuan was somewhat an exception. His strongest point was not the Holy Monarch Qi, but he had his own trump cards and reliance. At this moment, Chu Zhonghuan's eyes were filled with shock. He knew that the Bawang Sex Yi Su in front of him was stronger than he had imagined. It was completely beyond his expectations. He had no way out, and could only fight with all his strength. There was no other choice. Chu Zhonghuan pushed everything to the limit, even at the expense of burning his blood essence. Facing the underestimated Bawang Sex Yi Su, Chu Zhonghuan knew that if he did not pay a price, let alone defeat this person, he would most likely die. Therefore, Chu Zhonghuan chose to pay the price and go all out. Upper N. Twin 7H0T3/7*5WL9. This battle was related to the reputation of the Holy Mountain, as well as his own life and death. There was no way back, no other choice. Rumble! A fist rumbled through the air, shaking the sky. Waves of strong thunder erupted, the solitary mountain trembled, the earth quaking and mountains swaying. This was Chu Zhonghuan's full power strike. However, at the same time, Su Yi moved forward and threw out a punch as well. Su Yi's punch wasn't fancy at all. Scarlet light spread out and a terrifying force was contained within his fist like an erupting volcano. The sound of wind and thunder was like thunder, rumbling and rumbling. It was as if an overlord had awakened and an emperor had descended. A huge pressure resounded. The two fists collided instantly, like two meteorites crashing into each other. Boom! The void trembled and rumbled. In an instant there was almost no stalemate. A faint sound came from Chu Zhonghuan's fist. His face instantly turned pale and his eyes were filled with incomparable shock. Is this the so-called peak of the younger generation of the Holy Mountain? Unable to withstand a single blow, Su Yi's cold words came out from his mouth, and a dense killing intent instantly spread out from his eyes without any concealment. Above his fist, a vast and mighty force surged and swept out. Crack crack! Pfff on Chu Zhonghuan's fist, the sound of bones breaking could be heard, and the runes on his body were directly destroyed. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his body was sent flying like a kite with its string cut. In this split second, Chu Zhonghuan's eyes were filled with shock. From the inside to the outside, a layer of Yuan Qi condensed into armor that was about to cover his body, but it was instantly destroyed. Qi Lala, blood splattered as Chu Zhonghuan's body flew back again and crashed heavily into several boulders. His body was half buried in a pile of rubble. At this moment, Chu Zhonghuan's body was overflowing with blood. His hair was disheveled, and his purple robe was stained with blood. His right fist was also badly mutilated. Broken bones and flesh were intertwined together, making one's heart tremble at a glance. The terrifying commotion came to an abrupt end in an instant. It had started quickly, but it had ended even faster. In the distance, more and more onlookers were stunned. Their shocked expressions froze, and they were dumbfounded. They were all shocked to the extreme. Some people's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. This was too shocking. Mo Baiming's death was already enough to make them shudder with fear and trepidation. At this moment, Chu Zhonghuan's defeat had undoubtedly made all the onlookers' hair stand on end, and their scalps were about to explode. No one doubted Chu Zhonghuan's strength. When Chu Zhonghuan fought with his full strength, what kind of combat strength did he possess? Not to mention ordinary martial artists of the same level, he could even jump realms and kill ordinary opponents. But in front of everyone's eyes, someone as powerful as Chu Zhonghuan, one of the most outstanding disciples of the Holy Mountain, had actually been defeated, and so miserably at that. He had been easily defeated by Yi Su. From the beginning of the encirclement to Chu Zhonghuan's attack, everyone thought that the Bawang sect's Yi Su would fall. Amongst those of the same generation, it was almost impossible for anyone to compare with the most outstanding disciple of the Holy Mountain. But now this result was unbelievable. Some people fiercely rubbed their eyes, thinking they were hallucinating. So many disciples of the Holy Mountain couldn't even withstand a single blow. Mo Baiming had been directly killed, and even a heaven's pride like Chu Zhonghuan had been easily defeated. He couldn't even withstand a single blow. Soon, the onlookers regained their composure. As they looked at this figure, they sucked in a breath of cold air, their hearts trembling. Looking at the figure in front of him, Su Chen's eyes also trembled. He finally understood why that guy didn't need his help. From the beginning, Su Chen knew that it would be impossible for these disciples of the Holy Mountain to kill that guy. But even Su Chen hadn't expected this fellow to be so terrifyingly powerful. It must be that secret technique. Su Chen's eyes secretly lit up. He thought of Su Yi's secret technique that he had seen not long ago. He clearly had 5 chances to break through, but that guy forcibly refused to do so. He was cultivating like a masochist. It must be related to that secret technique. When he had fought with that guy hadn't been so powerful. Su Chen naturally didn't know that Su Yi had successfully broken through twice in the Great Void Divine Sea. He had also defeated Ouyang Jinwei and the others. Chu Zhonghuan was indeed extremely tyrannical. He was truly at the peak of the younger generation, a heaven's pride. If Su Yi had encountered him a few hours ago, it might not have been so easy to defeat him. Chapter 790. Yen Lin was also dumbfounded. His eyes trembled fiercely as he looked at the back of the figure. Su Yi's gaze was still cold. He didn't expect Chu Zhonghuan to still have such a protective armor. Otherwise, he would have killed him just now. Looking at Chu Zhonghuan, whose body was half buried in the rubble, the killing intent in Su Yi's eyes grew stronger. Kill! Yuan Qi rushed out from under his feet. Su Yi's figure rushed out again, taking advantage of his weakness to take his life. Chu Zhonghuan was a peak young disciple of the Holy Mountain. Su Yi had long wanted to kill him. Since the Holy Mountain wanted his life, there was no need for him to have any scruples. Yuan Qi flickered under Su Yi's feet. A wisp of crimson Yuan Qi burned like a crimson flame, carrying a destructive and majestic momentum. His body rose from the ground and suddenly stomped towards Chu Zhonghuan, who was buried in the rubble. Fierce crimson Yuan Qi covered the sky and covered the earth. His killing intent swept out without any concealment. Chu Zhonghuan's pupils shrank. His heroic appearance had long been battered and exhausted. Even when he saw Ouyang Jinwei collapse at the first blow, Chu Zhonghuan's heart was shaken, but he had never put this young man in his eyes. Seeing the figure approaching again, Chu Zhonghuan's eyes were filled with shock. In the entire holy mountain, he was one of the most dazzling existences. He was one of the peak existences of the younger generation, proudly above his peers. But only at this moment did he know that the person he had never put in his heart, the unknown brat before the sacred martial assembly, was so weak that he couldn't even withstand a single blow. That foot stomped down, growing larger and larger in Chu Zhonghuan's eyes. The domineering and majestic qi and killing intent made the depths of his soul crawl with the aura of death. His entire body trembled. His pride, dignity, the peerless talent he had always possessed, and his confidence had completely collapsed in an instant, crumbling and turning into nothingness. "No, you're not enough to kill me." Suddenly, a sinister voice came from Chu Zhonghuan's mouth. At the same time, his blood-drenched body suddenly charged out. His disheveled face had become ferocious, and his eyes were covered with a blood-red glow. At the same time, a palm-sized object appeared in Chu Zhonghuan's hand. Light spread out and runes flickered on it. A terrifying and dangerous aura was released, causing people to feel their hearts palpitate. Taking advantage of Chu Zhonghuan's weakness to take his life, but Su Yi had never been careless. When he saw the palm-sized object that suddenly appeared in Chu Zhonghuan's hand, his eyes were filled with killing intent. His pupils instantly shrank and his expression changed. Everything happened very quickly. In the blink of an eye, Chu Zhonghuan tossed out the item in his hand. At the same time, he retreated rapidly, a sinister smile on his lips. Rays of blood-red light shot out from the object like a rising blood-red sun. Suddenly, the light was so bright that it seemed to blot out the sky and earth. The terrifying aura froze the void around Lone Mountain. The light spread across the sky and on the ground, instantly enveloping Su Yi. Awoo! The blood-red light overflowed into the sky, and a huge blood-red beast vaguely appeared. It roared ferociously, raised its head to crack the sky, and waved its claws to crack the earth. It wanted to destroy everything. On the entire Lone Mountain, deep gullies appeared on the hard boulders, and the mountain directly exploded from the middle. Huge gullies crisscrossed from within Lone Mountain. As the earth rumbled and the mountain shook, Lone Mountain directly collapsed, and the cracks on the ground spread out into the distance. Rumble, fierce, killing intent overflowed into the sky, covering the sky and the earth. Deafening sounds like thunder rushed into the sky, and a dazzling blood-red light erupted, shaking the 9 heavens and rumbling. There was killing intent across the void, tearing the void apart. The monstrous aura was incomparably terrifying, distorting a large area of the void. The blood-red light was even more dazzling than lightning, making it impossible to look directly at it. All of this was too terrifying, as if it wanted to destroy this part of the world. The entire sacred martial secret world seemed to be on the verge of collapsing at any time. The ground was sinking and the void was distorting. Real void cracks even appeared, shaking the world. The scene was abnormally terrifying. On Lone Mountain, there were some miserable disciples from the sacred martial secret world who couldn't escape in time. They were directly drowned in blood-curdling screams, and then their bodies were pierced by the blood-red light, instantly turning into a rain of blood. Some people continued to retreat, but they were still a bit too slow, and were swallowed by the blood-red light, turning into a bloody mist amidst miserable screams. Not good. Su Chen and Yen Lin's expressions changed greatly. Under the terrifying blood-red light, the two of them quickly retreated, their figures like lightning, narrowly avoiding the danger. "Oh my God, what's going on?" The spectators in the distance looked at the terrifying scene in the distance. The terrifying blood-red storm swept out with an aura that could destroy everything. They were all frightened and couldn't help but retreat one after another. Soul-controlling talisman, that's a soul-controlling talisman. Those who could appear here weren't too weak. Someone cried out in alarm, recognizing what it was. That was a soul-controlling talisman, a kind of killing weapon. It was obvious that Chu Zhanghuan had brought such a weapon with him. The soul-controlling talisman could draw out remnant souls. Once the user activated it, they could erupt with terrifying power. Not good, that's a soul-controlling talisman. L-head hashtag hair L27 unspecified currency 0V 3D7I 5% 9. Su Chen hastily retreated, his eyes filled with shock. He could sense that the soul-controlling talisman had already reached the Emperor realm. Isu could not resist it. Someone is about to break out of the sacred martial secret world. I wonder who will be the first one to break out of the sacred martial secret world. Countless gazes began to burn in the mountains and peaks. They were all looking at the depths of the void. When someone broke out of the sacred martial secret world, the void sacred martial stage would appear there. The first one to break out of the void sacred martial stage should be Sacred Mountain Narenryu. Not necessarily. It could be someone else. But one thing is for sure. Those who can set foot on the void sacred martial stage are all true geniuses. Many people were discussing. The sacred martial assembly was about to begin. The final showdown was the real highlight of the sacred martial assembly. It could be said that it was a showdown between the peak of the younger generation in the vast central state. Any one of them would be a genius. Just thinking about it made people's blood boil. On many of the surrounding mountain peaks, in the lineups of the major forces, as the sky became brighter, their gazes gradually became nervous and expectant. The sacred martial assembly was more important to the major forces. It was an invisible competition between each other, and it was of great importance. In the major forces, their gazes fell on the void in front of them. They were all looking forward to the disciples in their mountain sections. When the time came, there would be 2 more people standing on the void sacred martial stage. Whoosh! You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.